Good afternoon, everyone. Let me welcome all of you to the Orange County Board of County Commission meeting of December the 3rd, 2024. As we begin this afternoon, let me first start by saying congratulations to our three commissioners who were sworn in today. Returning Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Uribe, and our newest commissioner, Commissioner Kelly Simrad. Welcome to the Board of County Commission. We do have a full agenda this afternoon. We want to also acknowledge this holiday season that we're in, hopefully and prayerfully. All of your families had a good Thanksgiving last week. I did, my favorite time of the year. And as we go into the season, you're going to hear more about the Mayor's Toy Drive that we're going to ask you all to help support as we take care of the families within our community. We're going to now move to the invocation, and it's my understanding Pastor Osborne is going to be coming up and doing the invocation. He'll be introduced formally by Commissioner Michael Scott from District 6. Following the invocation, we're going to ask Commissioner Scott if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. After the Pledge of Allegiance, Dr. Jeffrey Williamson will read a proclamation. Correction, actually, he's going to start by doing a presentation regarding the Pioneer of Change Award. And then after that, we're going to have a special presentation, a proclamation, recognizing Orange County's 200th anniversary. December the 29th of this year, we will celebrate Orange County's 200th year of existence. And you're going to see a presentation on that. Commissioners, when we do the formal recognition for the 200th anniversary, I'm going to ask you all, we're going to go down and we'll take a photograph on the floor at that time. And then following that, we will go to our public comment period. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Michael Scott at this time to introduce his guests.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So we had a slight change of plans. My guest had some traffic issues and wasn't able to speak today. So fortunately for me, Pastor Osborne is here. So I'm happy to welcome Pastor Osborne with Cross Life Church. He's the campus pastor. He's been in ministry 33 years in Florida and married to his wife, Sonia, for 30 years. He has several kids and grandkids. And so with that, Pastor Osborne.
Would you join me in prayer? Father, we love you. We thank you for today, and we just came out of a season of thankfulness, Lord, and we all, everyone in this room, have more than enough to be thankful for. And God, I pray we would take time to recognize that. And as we head into a season of Christmas, may we be reminded that you loved us so much that you sent your son. He became one of us to come to live, to love, and to die on a cross for our sins so we can have a relationship with you, Lord. So we thank you for that. I thank you for these commissioners and the mayor and the task and the work that's before them, God. They are not unlike churches of today. We are called to serve, to love, and to care for the needs of our people, Lord. So I pray blessings on them. I pray that you would bless them as they go and as they serve and as they make a difference in our community, God. Bless this time together, and may you be honored in all that's said and done. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Folks, I am out of Scooby snacks, so if you're looking for them, I'm sorry I don't have them right now.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. And good afternoon, Commissioners and everyone. As the Mayor said, we do have a special presentation. I'd like to call on right now Yesenia Negron. She is Assistant Manager of Communications here at Orange County Government, also the President of the Hispanic Heritage Network here at Orange County, to present the Pioneer of Change Award. Ms. Negron.
Good morning, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's been today. Good afternoon, Mayor Demings, County Commissioners, Mr. Byron Brooks, our Comptroller Phil Diamond. Today is a special day in Orange County as we conclude our oath of office ceremony this morning. And we welcome our Commissioners, Uribe, Wilson, and our new Commissioner, Samrad, to the Orange County family. As many of you are aware, the Hispanic Heritage Network of Orange County is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by county employees, and this year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary. This event will be held on December 18th, 2024, and I want to take this opportunity to personally invite all of you in attendance to participate in this celebration as we uphold the contributions of our community together. Today, we also take some time to honor the impacts made by other county employees. The Hispanic Heritage Network of Orange County is pleased to formally recognize a true pillar in our community, in our Hispanic community, Mrs. Lisette Valarino. Mrs. Valarino exemplifies what it means to be a true pioneer of change. Valarino is a visionary behind the establishment of the Hispanic Heritage Committee of Greater Orange County, which is now known as the Hispanic Heritage Network. She is also the driving force behind the creation of the Hispanic Heritage Scholarship Fund of Metro Orlando in 2000. Her transformative contributions to our community highlight how one individual, driven by passion, inclusivity, and commitment, can inspire and shape meaningful change. Mrs. Valarino, today, in recognition of your visionary leadership, relentless dedication, and transformative contributions that have paved the way for positive change within our Hispanic community for the past 25 years, the Hispanic Heritage Network of Orange County hereby presents to Lisette Valarino the Pioneer of Change Award on this third day of December 2024. Let's give her a big round of applause. She's here with us. You gotta speak, you gotta say something.
If you know me, you know that I should not be given a microphone. But I promise that today it's going to be okay. Mayor, thank you very much. Commissioners, thank you for the work that you do, all of you, each and every one. Every elected official, it's not an easy task, and I understand that. What I did, what I've accomplished, I didn't do it alone. I had an incredible amount of people behind me who gave me their hand when I needed it, who were there to lift me up when I faltered, and who corrected me when I was going wrong. And today I want to thank you all. But above all, I want to thank this wonderful community. We are all very proud of our heritage, all of us. But we are also very proud of this community who opened their arms to us, who accepted us, who celebrated with us, who made us part of the fabric of Orange County. I thank you for that, and thank you. And I want to leave a word to the Hispanic Heritage Network. You've got a job to do, and I encourage you to go with it, strive with it, and go as far as you can. You have many people behind you, and you can live up to the expectations that we have built for you. So thank you again.
At this moment, I'm going to ask our partners at Duke Energy, our title presenting sponsor, to please join us in the front, and our members, Martali Irizaris and Ricardo Miranda, and any other member of our committee to please come to the front for the photo.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Groen. Thank you very much, committee, and thank you, Lizette. We appreciate that. For those of you who do not know this, Orange County will turn 200 years old on December 29th of this year. Orange County will be 200 years old. This is the 200th anniversary proclamation, and it reads, whereas on December 29th, 1824, Mosquito County was established in the Central Highlands section of Florida with many lakes and ponds within its boundaries. And whereas in 1845, the county's name was changed to Orange due to the thriving citrus industry which served as the area's primary source of income. And whereas in 1850, Orange County's population soared to 466 people. And its boundaries consistent of present-day Volusia, Brevard, Osceola, Lake, and Seminole counties. And whereas Orange County experienced steady growth primarily driven by cattle ranching and the agriculture industries. However, during the winter of 1895 to 1896, the citrus growers and all agriculture were devastated by a crippling freeze. Many of the growers welcomed land speculators, creating a land boom. And whereas following a devastating hurricane and the Great Depression, by the late 1930s, steady growth fueled Orange County as people began to rediscover Central Florida's beauty, taking on a boom town appearance. Whereas in 1942, the community looked back to remember a century of history through a Pioneer Times display in the old brownstone courthouse. The exhibit expanded over time, supported by donations that formed the basis of the Historical Society of Central Florida's present collection at the History Center. And whereas in 1965, cartoonist, filmmaker, and visionary entrepreneur Walt Disney began quietly purchasing large tracts of land in Central Florida, and in 1971 opened Walt Disney World, the first and still centerpiece of the Walt Disney complex, which made Orlando and Orange County a household name worldwide. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners established a historical commission to carry on the work leading to the 1976 opening of the Orange County Historical Museum in Orlando's Lock Haven Park, a precursor to the History Center, which opened its doors in 2000 to critical acclaim and national awards. And whereas today Orange County is the 5th largest county by population in Florida, with world-famous attractions, one of the nation's largest convention centers, excellent educational institutions, a robust economy, vibrant arts and culture, and a diverse and thriving economy. Now, therefore, Jerry O. Demings, by virtue of the authority vested in him as Orange County Mayor, does hereby proclaim December 29th, 2024 as Orange County 200th Anniversary Day in Orange County, Florida, and recognize Orange County's rich history and 2 centuries of progress, along with the 8,000 dedicated county employees and the 1.5 million residents who call our community home. Done and ordered this 3rd day of December 2024, signed by the mayor and all 6 members of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm going to ask if all the commission members would not mind please coming down to the front to take a picture with the mayor, and let's give our county, which is now 200 years, a big round of applause. 200 years old. Let me bring on Mr. Kest. Mr. Kest, if you wouldn't mind coming up and giving us a few words as the commission comes down for the photo.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Kest. I am the president of the Historical Society of Central Florida, and I'm pleased to be here today to help Orange County celebrate the 200th anniversary of the founding of Mosquito County. In conjunction with the Orange County Regional History Center, we are helping this month to commemorate this milestone by displaying artwork and artifacts that help trace the 2 centuries of progress in the evolution from Mosquito County to the Orange County of today. And you'll find those out in the hallway outside the commission chambers. From the importance of this area to the citrus industry to the advances made possible by the coming of the railroad, some of these works highlight the evolution and the ways it transformed our county, including the way downtown was reshaped by the building of the 1927 courthouse, the very building that the Historical Society and Orange County History Center have resided in for approximately 25 years. And it shows the grand opening of the Orlando Arena in 1989, a transformative moment for the history of the city and the county. We invite you to enjoy these pieces from our collection and reflect on how far we've come as a county and what may be in store for the next 200 years. We thank the Orange County for their continued support of the History Center and partnership with the Historical Society of Central Florida, and we are pleased to be part of this momentous celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kest. We appreciate that. Mayor and Commissioners, if you would allow us just a few more minutes, we would like to share how we are celebrating Orange County's 200th anniversary. I will now call on LaVon Williams. Ms. Williams is the Deputy Director of Community and Family Services Department to talk briefly about Orange County Regional History Center's involvement in the 200th anniversary along with Head Start. Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Dr. Williamson, and thank you, Mr. Kest, so much for your comments and for the great partnership with the Historical Society of Central Florida, there we go, and the Regional History Center. Very proud of that. It is my pleasure to be just a small part of celebrating the Orange County's 200th anniversary. The Orange County Regional History Center team has worked closely with the Mayor's Office and Communications to plan the significant occasion. As you may have noticed, I hope you noticed, that the Regional History Center has curated art displays in the atrium and in the 2 glass cases located on the first floor just past the Bank of Elevators, and this displays Orange County's history in many different ways. It gives a glimpse of Orange County's history for 2 centuries, from photos of the first courthouse to a court docket and memorabilia collected from across the county, capped off with paintings that capture the rich history of our community. Our Head Start students, some of our youngest residents, and the cutest, I must say, have also joined in the festivities. Sonia Hill and the Head Start staff are commemorating the 200th anniversary by launching 200 hours of reading at the Head Start centers. The students are also participating by producing art projects themed around 2 centuries of progress. And they are inviting, the Head Start staff are inviting 200 guest readers to sign up this month to read to our students. And we will celebrate the 200th reader. How? I don't know, but we will celebrate. The county's 200th anniversary webpage will include information on how residents can volunteer to be a guest reader. And so now I will turn it over to Mark Espesso, the Assistant Manager of Communications Division, who will share more about the commemorative website. Thank you.
Thank you, LaVon. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to share this exciting initiative as we celebrate Orange County's 200th anniversary. I'd like to walk you through the commemorative webpage that we've created for the county. As a note, this page is accessible through desktop and through our mobile devices by visiting ocfl.net/200. That's ocfl.net/200. So, Commissioners, every picture tells a story. The centerpiece of our webpage is a visual carousel that features over 40 photos of our milestones, our memories, and the progress that we've made as a county over the past 2 centuries. These photos will also be shared on the county's social media accounts and our platforms, and each district will be tagged on social media to promote the campaign celebrating our bicentennial. As we all know, this collection is only a snapshot of what our 200th is actually about. So for anyone who would like to explore further, we've included links to the Orange County Regional History Center if anybody would like to do a deeper dive or deeper engagement into our history. Orange County's story wouldn't be complete without the contributions of our residents. So we are asking our community to share their photos and that capture the spirit of the county, whether through historic photos, landmarks, or a treasured family moment that offers a glimpse into the past. To participate, residents can easily drag and drop their photos onto the submission feature that's on our webpage right here. We encourage everyone to visit ocfl.net/200. Again, that's ocfl.net/200 to experience this visual journey into our past and help contribute to our shared history. And again, make sure to follow Orange County's social media accounts to learn more. Mayor, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. With that, what I want to point out also is to celebrate this historic occasion, our 200th anniversary, we will be opening the Orange County Regional History Center for free on the date of the anniversary, Sunday, December the 29th, between the hours of 12 noon to 5 p.m. This will be an opportunity to explore 4 floors of Orange County's history from our humble beginnings to where we are today. In addition, we will unveil Orange County's 200th anniversary edition that will chronicle 2 centuries of progress, highlighting our county departments, constitutional offices, municipalities, and significant moments in our rich history. To find out more about Orange County's 200th anniversary, again, go to our webpage at ocfl.net/200. Thank you all so much, and happy anniversary. With that, thank you. All right, that concludes some of the ceremonial activities this morning. To those who participated this afternoon, yeah, that's right. Normally we start in the morning, but then we go all the way to night. But we're starting in the afternoon today. As we move now to the public comment period, I will invite members of the public to come forward regarding topics of interest or concern that are within this board's authority. There are certain matters, however, which aren't appropriate for public discussion during this public comment period. These matters will include pending procurement or land use issues or concerns that should be brought to some of our other boards. But of course, we will solicit public input also this afternoon when we go to our hearings regarding the land use issues. And as we begin at this time with public comment, I do want to, it's my understanding that we have a number of individuals who have requests, desire to speak. How many?
Mayor, we have roughly 45 public comment cards this afternoon.
So in anticipation, I know there's one item that there may be some misunderstanding, I think, about an item regarding the Special Commissioner's report. And just so that, especially since we have, I know, so many clergy who may be here for that item, I'm going to ask the District Commissioner, Commissioner Simrad, to kind of speak to the issue, because I want you to hear from her where her position is, and perhaps we can clarify some, if there's any misunderstanding, what that might be. So, Commissioner, I'm going to do something we don't normally do, but I think it would be appropriate in this case.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. So today I'm going to ask the board and the public for some grace as District 5 transitions between two different commissioners. I am not asking for a moratorium today on church development. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware. All that I'm looking at is an ordinance update on A2 land, and the timeline for that would be probably in sync with Vision 2050 and Orange Code, which also addresses the same issue. So thank you so much. I just wanted to, I know there's a lot of anxiety, and I'm not requesting a moratorium on churches. Thank you.
Okay, so with that clarification, each speaker will be given 1 minute this afternoon. We do have a lot of business before us, but we do want to hear from all of you. Just keep in mind that if you are with a group and you feel that you may be repeating something that has already been said, don't feel that you have to say it anyway. You can certainly, in some cases, others may be able to speak on your behalf with their comments, and we can use the time most efficiently this afternoon. So with that, Mr. Thalmuller, we'll begin with the first person who is asked to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Folks, I'm going to call your names in batches. When I do, please line up on the back wall. Approach the podium one at a time. When you do approach the podium, begin with your name and address for the record. Just a quick note, I know that, or I see that some of you have indicated that you wanted to donate time. I think it was explained at the counter. That's not something that can happen during this public comment session. So if you did fill out a card and you don't want to speak yourself, you just don't stand up. That's entirely fine. We're not going to force you up there. So with that said, first speaker is going to be Dan Helm, followed by Gracie Barber, Mason Barber, Pastor Pat McGuffin, and Patricia Buchanan.
Remember name and address for the record.
My name is Dan Helm. My address is 2026 East Jefferson Street, Orlando, Florida. I have some handouts that hopefully will come around in a second. This morning I wanted to talk about the ongoing discussion about the misuse of public funds by the supervisor of elections. I'm a supervisor of elections office enthusiast. I am worried at this point, given the conduct over this past week. A week ago, last Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving, Radhika Singh, the chief financial officer of the supervisor of elections office, was terminated after 10 years of service. And it's concerning because I believe that she probably brought up objections to the use of supervisor elections funds. It was terminated for that purpose. Since I've only had a minute, please read the handout. I'm concerned about the OC votes program, particularly also the second page of your handout. You'll see that the supervisor elections already has about $10 million of his annual budget, and so I'm worried about potential misuse of funds. Last time you spent an hour discussion, including injunctive relief to try and prevent supervisor from misusing public funds. I think something needs to happen given that we've just removed the last gatekeeper, the protector of the cookie jar, if you will, from protecting those public funds. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ham, for your comments. Because he has now invoked some of the issues around the Supervisor of Elections office, I do see the Supervisor of Elections elect in the audience. And so if you want to speak during this public comment period, I'm going to give you some grace, and rather than wait on deck, I will invite you to the podium to speak, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor Demings, Commissioners, and Comptroller Diamond. As the incoming Supervisor of Elections, I'm very eager to get started. My term begins January 7th, and I've been trying to transition with my team. We have municipal elections coming in March, and it's really important that we get started. I have requested a number of documents from the current interim SOE, such as budget information, personnel rosters, org charts, payments that have been made since October, anything that we need to be aware of going forward, and I have yet to receive any of those documents. I have requested meetings with key staff members, and given that the CFO, Radhika Singh, she was one of the key staff I was hoping to meet with since she was terminated, I have a lot of unanswered questions. And I have to admit that there are a lot of concerns I have given this lack of transparency of what is happening currently in the office and the lack of cooperation with the transition.
All right, Madam Supervisor-elect, at the conclusion of our meeting today, we do have a non-agenda item in which we'll be receiving an update about some of the developments regarding the Supervisor of Elections office, and I hope that you're able to be present for that.
Certainly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. With that, do we have any other elected officials in here? Okay. Former Commissioner Alexander Smith, if you would like to come forward, I will. If you were intending to speak, I will give you that opportunity. And I see former Commissioner Mildred Fernandez. If you were intending to speak, we'll give you the opportunity to speak also. All right, Commissioner Alexander Smith from the City of Apopka.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I do have an officer swearing in at 3 o'clock, so I will have to leave, so I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I was coming to speak in opposition to the moratorium that I heard that was going to place against churches. I'm a pastor as well, and as fast as the county is growing with the number of people that's moving here, I feel that we need as many churches at this time as possible, and by restricting the growth of churches in a rural community, wherein we know in our inner cities that there is no place for churches to grow at this time. And so I feel that it's important that we understand that there is a need for churches to be constructed in our rural communities, and this would be an asset not only to just a community but to our entire county. And so I'd appreciate any consideration that we would give to that particular. And I heard you say you were removing the moratorium, but we just want to make sure that we are sensitive to the churches. And thank you for this opportunity to speak.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Okay. So, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, okay. in terms in order to maintain the decorum of this meeting, we don't really allow the outward making of noise of any type. So this is your warning. We ask that you not do that. You can display your support in other ways other than by making noise. Otherwise, I really don't want to ask our Sergeant at Arms to escort anyone out. We just ask you to keep that in mind going forward. Okay, that is your one and your last warning today. So as we move forward, we move forward together with clarity and how we will conduct the meeting going forward. So with that, Commissioner Fernandez, were you intending to speak today?
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon to you all, and congratulations to the new commissioners and to the ones that are already here. This morning, while I was praying, I just want to let you know how much I do believe that churches are instrumental to our community. We have people from different areas that the only access that they do have to churches is the one in rural areas. We in government, we need to work together with churches. We are not anyone, even as a constitutional right, to prohibit the construction of new churches. So I am with a pastor, and I'm sure most of the people here are on an agreement. So I want you to do consideration, to have consideration on those issues, and to remember that we need to work together with churches. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. All right. So, So that we're really clear, how many of you who are here present in the audience this afternoon are here to voice opposition to a moratorium on the construction of churches in rural areas? Would you raise your hands? Okay. All right. So you can see that's the majority of you. What I want you all to understand is that the members of the Board of County Commission can see your position, and we understand your position. There's not an agenda item today in which the board will take any specific action to create a moratorium. Commissioner Simrad had asked for a special commissioner's report for this afternoon. She has said to you that it is not her intention with that report to be asking for a moratorium, and that's not something we will take up today. Within the respective Orange County codes and comprehensive plans, there may be some conversation later that we may have as a board after we do our due diligence in understanding the code and making certain that staff has the opportunity to research, that the county attorney has the opportunity to opine on any statutory prohibitions. Until we have all of that, there will not be any decisions. And that was not the intent, as you've heard, of Commissioner Simrad today. So what I'm saying to you is, if your intent today was to come and communicate your opposition to stop something that isn't, and I can understand based upon a memorandum that was written how you may have come to the conclusion that that was something that might happen today, but I cannot speak for our colleagues, but given what Commissioner Simrad has said, let's take her for what she has said and what I'm saying to you on behalf of our board, so that if we don't have to have all of you speak and spend a lot of time to get to the same point that we were going to get to this afternoon, I'm just, in deference to your time and the time of others, I just want to put that on the record. So if that is helpful to you to understand where we are at this point, there is nothing procedurally that is going to happen in terms of a decision regarding anything like that today. Okay? All right, so if we call your name and you were going to speak on that item and you have comfort in what has been said at this point, you can simply wave and not have to come forward to speak. Okay. All right, Mr. Thalmuller, we'll go back to calling the names. And there may be some people here who, albeit it's going to be a few, who want to speak on other matters of public concern. But the overwhelming majority of you have indicated you're here for the public concern that we have discussed. All right, so we'll go back.
All right, next three names are Deborah Barber, Gracie Barber, Mason Barber, followed by Pastor Pat McGuffin and Patricia Buchanan.
Debbie Barber, 19309 Lake Pickett Road. I would like to begin telling you that I love our Lord Jesus Christ. I've been saved since I was 8 years old. I only say this because this has been made a religious rights issue, but I assure you it's not. This is an issue of having a 450-person church built on a 15-acre lot in our rural agriculture area. We have called this a mega church because the pastor at the main campus just said this past Sunday they are helping to fund this campus because it's one of 3 campuses. First and foremost, I believe that there should be a church in this area, in all areas. But this one is not within walking distance. No one in need could even walk to this church in particular. Our community is centered around agriculture, open spaces, and preservation of the rural character that makes this increased activity simply not compatible or consistent with zoning. And I did reach out to the pastor because we've not heard from them, and he said they would have an open church. Since my conversation, they have had 2 events. The first one was a 24-hour event where they had light towers on through the night, and it made our horses, our cows and everything uproared all night long. Grace.
All right, that time will go quickly. All right, we'll move to the next speaker, please.
Can I just start? I'm Gracie Barber. I live at 19309 Lake Pickett Road. Based on the pattern of this church's behavior, we respectfully request that the matter be referred to the Board of Zoning Appeals, the BZA, where it can be evaluated under the criteria for a special exception. By requiring a special exception, we can ensure that any development in our area is thoroughly reviewed and considered in light of compatibility with the surrounding land uses and the impact on our rural character. This special exception process provides an opportunity for more detailed scrutiny, allowing for public input and careful assessment of how such development aligns with the zoning ordinance and long-term vision of our community. We believe that this is necessary to ensure that the interests of our residents who live and work in these areas are properly considered. And I just want to say that imagine that you live here. Imagine that you were trying to keep your kids, animals, and livelihood safe.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Barber. Next speaker, please. And for the children, we don't ask them to give their address.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I bet you can't tell he's mine. You don't have to say his name. Sorry, we had to split it up.
If he wants to give us his first name, that's fine.
All right, there you go. Say your name.
I'm Mason Barber.
Okay, if you can pull that mic down so he could, there we go.
In conclusion, we are asking that you approve this required the church before the BZA board and meet the special exemption criteria. Thank you for your time and consider we trust that you will act in our best interest of our community and assure that our rural character preserved for future. May God bless you all and we make these decisions.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. And we'll move to the next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mayor Demings and Commission. I'm Pat McGuffin, 289 Lakeview Boulevard in Apopka. I'm president of the Apopka Christian Ministerial Alliance that represents scores of churches in Northwest Orange County and thousands of churchgoers who are shocked at our county commission would consider putting a muzzle on our religious liberties as being proposed. The commissioner's proposal, I realize, has altered from when we originally saw it, but the idea of not just the word moratorium, but gaining oversight, control over development in rural areas has grabbed our attention also. We still pay impact fees. We still follow the code. We still do those things as churches. My church, Freedom Fellowship, is located in a rural area on 5 acres. We feed about 200 needy families every week who don't even go to our church. There are people other churches that do homeless ministries. And all churches in Orange County are doing something to help families in crisis and in need. Whoa.
Pastor, I know, when you stand in the pulpit, it takes a little bit longer to get warmed up.
I did see it was 3 minutes, then cut to 2, and now to 1. So, okay.
Back to 1 minute.
You get the point.
Yes, sir. We got it. Thank you. All right. Next speaker, please.
I've got some pictures that I would like them to put up. Can you do that?
Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Patricia Buchanan. I live at 19315 Lake Pickett Road, which is directly north of the proposed site. We bought our property 20 years ago, and we split it 4 ways, which gives all 5 acres. I come to you today greatly concerned about the flooding. A few years ago, when the hurricane came through, our yards, our pastures were high and dry, but all of that has changed in the last few years. Since the developments went in down the road, our pastures, our homes, and our yards flood worse and worse with every development. Back in July and August, I had to stall one of my cows and miniature donkeys due to foot rot for almost 2 months. We walked in water a foot deep in places. We got to the point where we couldn't even send the kids to feed the animals because the moccasins and the rattlesnakes were taking over our barn and our stalls, hunting dry land. My fear is that if you allow a church to build with 450 people to build a building with a septic tank and a drain field to accommodate that many people, the next hurricane or the next wet season, their drain fields will back up into our wells, which will contaminate our water. And then we also worry about the dry season.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Buchanan. We will move to the next speaker.
All right, folks. Next set of speakers is going to start with Joseph Buchanan, followed by Jacob Buchanan, followed by Liza Buchanan, followed by Michael McCrate, and John Stemberger.
Good afternoon, Mayor Demings, Commissioners. My name is JP Buchanan. I live at 19315 Lake Pickett Road. My wife, Lisa, my son, Jacob. We've been a resident in that area for 20 years. We're just simply here asking for a compatibility assessment for the area. We would like some studies to be done for it to go to the BZA hearing. Most of the people you're going to see in here, they don't live in that area. They're going to speak from other areas of town. That's just simply what we're asking, is just for compatibility assessments to see if it's good for a church to go in that area. We love God, we love churches, but not in our backyard. Thank you.
All right, we understand. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I think the other speakers have waved. John Stemberger. I live at 4565 St. Bride's Court in Orlando, Florida. Been there for 30 years. Senior counsel with Liberty Counsel and president of Liberty Counsel Action. Members of the commission and mayor, the primary principle is that when you're dealing with anything related to churches, you cannot treat them differently than other buildings. Over 20 years ago, I stood before this body with a different commission, different mayor. We argued on behalf of a Jewish rabbi who was trying to pray in his home. You can't look inside the building and say, why are you meeting there? So for religious purposes, we're going to treat you differently than other big buildings, other institutional buildings. Our firm has been to the U.S. Supreme Court 4 times victoriously. We're happy to talk to your counsel when drafting these things. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. We can help you understand actually what our LUPA involves, what the First Amendment involves, and help you craft a constitutional ordinance if you want to do that. If you don't, then that's fine. But we just suggest that you not treat churches differently than you treat other buildings. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Stemberger, you are an attorney, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right, we'll move to our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Michael Lincoln McCrade. I am the proud president of Magical Self-Advocacy. First off, I want to congratulate three of our county commissioners that two got reelected and one got new elected. So I can't wait to work with all 3 of you again. I visited this past couple of months. I have been honored to visit a couple of the other counties in the state of Florida. And I've noticed that a lot of the local police departments and fire departments have been having autism awareness patrol vehicles and fire trucks that is representing the autism community. I have noticed that Orange County does not have any autism awareness patrol vehicles in Orange County. I have reached out to Orange County Sheriff's Office, Orlando PD, and both local fire departments, and they have confirmed that they don't have any patrol vehicles. So I would like to see if we can do something to get that worked on here in Orange County. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. McCray, for your comments. We'll move to the next speaker.
All right, next speaker is David Lewis, followed by Becky Wilson, Michaela Fazekas, Peter Haglund, and Liz Conan.
David Lewis? Is David Lewis here? If David Lewis is not here, then we'll move to the next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Becky Wilson. I represent Cross Life Church. And while I appreciate the Commissioner's statement that a moratorium is not going to be discussed later, it is obviously quite clear that there are people here expecting that our church's property is going to be discussed. And as you can imagine, that is somewhat disturbing to us. So in January of 2024, my client confirmed with Orange County staff that the particular piece of property is not in a rural settlement, and a church is allowed as a by right use on this A2 piece of property. Based on that information, the congregation then purchased the vacant land with the intent to construct a permitted church. We've submitted our application for a conservation area determination, and once approved, we will follow the rules that are in place now, and we will submit for our building permits. Today, we ask that you take no action which would negatively impact the church's substantial investment in East Orange County. Commissioner, we will make ourselves available to meet with you. You just got in office today. As your colleagues can let you know, I will bug you a lot, and so we want to make sure that the lines of communication are open moving forward on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wilson, and just for the record, Ms. Wilson, you are an attorney representing the church in question.
Yes, I am, and if those church members could just raise their hands.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to the next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Michaela Fazekas, 19325 Lake Pickett Road, Orlando. All we're asking today is that the commissioners please vote to allow oversight of church buildings, as they are currently allowed to use a loophole written in 1957, which is no longer applicable to a modern society where mega churches regularly build massive compounds attracting thousands of visitors. Our community deserves, at the very least, to have a zoning hearing, just as we were asked to do for our own small business. We did not have the privilege of using any loopholes to avoid the bureaucratic hoopla and thousands of dollars spent that we were subjected to for almost 2 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Yes, my name is Peter Haglund, and I live right there where the blue square is. A couple of years ago, we had to go through special exception. We have spent over $15,000 in consultants, lawyers, architects, blueprints. We even have the county tell us that we had to install sprinklers and septic in our running shelters for our horses. I am so happy that one of the members of the church have said, you don't want to be treated anything different. I'm so happy to hear that. We had to go through the special exception process for that little property with the blue square. This is the superimposed of the Oviedo Cross Life Church, 15 acres of theirs. That's the green acres. The property, the facility that you see there is about 20,000 square foot. Compare that to my little blue facility right up there, right beneath under the square, and you tell me if we should have special exception or if the church facility should have it. Please vote for Kelly Sabrad's motion.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Liz Connor, and I live at 2744 South Tanner Road. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Congratulations to our newly elected and re-elected. In November, with support of this commission, voters successfully passed 4 charter amendments, including ones that focus on sustainable growth and protecting little rural areas that we already have. This is not about religious discrimination, hate, fighting against the good word. This is about protecting rural life, quality of life, and the residents who have just spoken. This is the first quote-unquote test to the rural boundary. This is something that will set a precedent. I agree that we need to work together. We don't get anywhere if we do not work together. I've been in front of this commission many times this year alone, and I agree with that. I also think we need to bring this to the appropriate committees to look at compatibility, because the intensity is really concerning these residents. They're concerned about flooding, septic, traffic. I've been out to the area, and that curve right there in the dark is very concerning. There's not sidewalks, there's not proper lanes, so I'm just promoting sustainable growth and development, protecting folks. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
All right, next set of speakers is going to start with Mary Murray, followed by Faith Murray, Stephen Welch, Stefan Hrindich, and Shelley Crawford.
I'm Mary Murray. I live at 19311 Lake Pickett Road. I am a 4th generation East Orlando resident, a daughter-in-law of a current Orlando pastor, and am for church growth. However, I come before you to ask you to support the amendment to the code. We are not asking for singling out churches. It is holding everyone to the same standard. My family was required a special hearing to build our homes on less than 10 acres because of a family lot provision. We spent thousands of dollars in order to hold a special exemption. One of the primary concerns we have with a large church in this rural area is that it does not align with the current land use. It would introduce a significant level of activity and infrastructure that doesn't fit within the context of small rural areas. Another critical concern is the potential strain on the local infrastructure. Our rural roads were not designed to handle the increased traffic that would result from a large church. The roads are not equipped to handle the volume of traffic of a large congregation would bring. Moreover, the increase in traffic could pose safety risks.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
In rural areas, the infrastructure for utilities is often more limited, and that includes water, sewage, and septic systems. Our area relies on well water and septic systems, which are already strained in many places. The proposal for a large church raises serious concerns about the sustainability of these resources. If the church septic system fails or its water uses is too high, it could lead to contamination of our water supply. The potential impacts on our environment, infrastructure, and quality of life are too great to ignore. I ask that the Commission to carefully consider these concerns and to support the motion to amend the code to require that all land with rural boundary require special exemption and compatibility tests within the rural boundary. Thank you.
Well, give us your name if you don't mind.
Oh, Faith Murray. Faith Murray.
Faith Murray. All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to the next speaker.
Hello, I'm Steve Welch. I live on East Orange County. We've been there 33 years. I live on Tanner Road. And personally, I know, like we just learned, that our county is still growing as fast as it ever did, and we need more space, so it's hard to resist. We need to move out into that area where there's multiple subdivisions being built since I've lived there. So we need the growth. We need to move, and it's like we have a new Publix, a new Tractor Supply. We have other businesses moving in there. We also need churches. And it's difficult to drive long distances to go to church. We need a church in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Mayor, Commissioner, Stefan Ridich, 809 Jeff Coach Street, Apopka, Florida. I'm actually here to talk on a completely different topic. And no disrespect, however, my situation here has been pretty challenging since purchasing my first home in June of 2022. I've actually honored to say I'm a 52-year resident of Orange County, 30 years as a licensed contractor. It has been a little bit challenging reaching out to code enforcement, asking for them to address some things, and especially illegal demolition and construction of buildings that still, here we are a month later after notifying them, and then I'm even accused of, what, are you a tattletale? And then I go to their office. They're degrading me, honestly, as a resident, feeling like I'm doing the right thing. And, of course, our governor chose to remove the opportunity to be anonymous and not have to be part of the public eye. And I was even attacked and shot by my own neighbors for doing the right thing, reaching out to this commission. And today I still have to deal with these situations, and I'm hoping that the Orange County Commission will consider getting another code enforcement officer and providing them with someone for fencing permits, that just because the permit is paid for doesn't mean it's been inspected and it meets code. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. And Mr. Brooks, in this current fiscal year that just started, didn't we expand the number of code enforcement personnel?
I can't recall at the moment, Mayor, but I do know we will certainly follow up, and I'll get more information on that specific circumstance and situation.
All right, thank you. All right, next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Shelley Crawford, 19490 Quarterly Parkway. I currently have the honor of serving as the president of the Wedgefield Homeowners Association. I'm here today on behalf of my residents, not necessarily about the Lake Pickett Road in specific, but we received a request to build a church back on Bancroft, right in the middle of our neighborhood. And our deed restrictions currently disallow such, but I became concerned for other communities that may not have protections. So I looked into it and asked Ms. Simrad about it, and then found out that the special permitting exceptions had been removed when the rural enclave, rural settlement stuff was scratched. And I'm only here on behalf of my residents asking that the rural boundary area be extended the same protections that were given to the rural settlements and rural enclaves before. And I have here this was proposed location of the church. You'll see the yellow site there. There are 75 residences around it that have been there for years. They would receive, I'm sorry, can I have 5 seconds? They would receive no notification under the rules as they currently stand. And all we ask for is notification, consultation, and advisement. That's it.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
All right, next set of speakers is going to start with Jason Belcher, followed by James Henderson, Keith Brantley, Joshua Foster, and Doug Osborne.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Belcher. I reside at 9514 James Creek Road in Christmas. I am a member of Cross Life Church. I've been a lifetime resident of Christmas, Florida. My family goes back more generations than I can count to the pioneer days. I'm a member of Cross Life Church because Cross Life Church has served me and my family in this community. And so I'm coming to you to request that any restrictions or anything else that is being put on churches in general, regardless of where it's at, but especially our church in Christmas area. We've been rooted in that community for the last 10 plus years, I think 11 or 12 years now going on. We want to reach out to the residents of Bithlo, Christmas, and all the East Orange County communities there. Looking at it, I'm 46 years old. I've lived there my entire life, and I've been a part of several different churches in the area. And to see what our congregation has done, it's not any one person, but reaching out, partnering with the commission to hand out backpacks and to serve the community of Bithlo, the residents of Christmas. There's numerous residents of Christmas that are members of our church in the East Orange County, so please keep that in consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move to the next speaker, please. Okay. I'm not sure who was speaking out. Deputy Barnes or one of our staff members just kind of quietly have a conversation with those in the back about the decorum. Okay. Somewhere back there. Okay, we don't want you to speak out. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is James Henderson, and I live at 3212 Lakeshore Loop in Orlando. I'm a graduate of UCF, and I got commissioned through their Air Force ROTC program in 1982. I served in the Air Force until I was medically retired in 2002. In 2004, we built a house and moved back to Orlando, and we live in Country Lake Estates, just south of Lake Pick Road on 419. And we have also been a member of Cross Life Church since for the past 20 years. When I was stationed in England at the end of the Cold War from 1984 to 1987, I was fortunate enough to go to spend a few days in West Berlin. Can I?
All right, Mr. Henderson, can you just wrap it up?
Yeah. I was able to spend a few days in West Berlin, and I saw something there that made a tremendous impact on me. That there were white crosses by the Reichstag, by the German, that houses the German parliament. and they were crosses dedicated to the people who died going from East Berlin to West Berlin.
Okay,
They died.
Mr. Henderson, unfortunately, you are out of time.
Okay.
All right. I'll try to give you a little extra time, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next speaker, please. By the way, Mr. Henderson, thank you for your service. All right.
Hello, my name is Joshua Foster. I live at 13829 T Rose Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32828. My wife and I have 5 children, ages 12 to 19. I've been a member of Cross Life East for almost 3 years. I grew up in Vermont on a family dairy farm. I worked as a software engineer for a large defense contractor for 17 years, and I work for a startup in Florida. I have no interest in attending a megachurch. I also want a place where people know my name, where I know theirs. I want a place where people participate instead of just attending. I want my kids to have meaningful relationships with wise and caring older adults. The concern that I have with this proposal is that by increasing the regulatory framework for churches, that it's going to have the opposite desired effect. My experience is that with more regulation, the larger entity is required to meet those regulations. And most family farms that I've seen have gone out of business due to a lot of these sort of regulations. If you look at the defense contractors, they're all huge. The regulations just cemented the position of these large entities. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Foster. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. But I live at 2202 Whiting Trail, which is right around the corner from where this new facility is being looked at being built. We're in Lake Pickett Reserve, and my wife and I moved in there 8 years ago. And personally, my family, we got 3 kids and 6 grandkids, fixing to be 7 grandkids. And we're excited about having a church locally. And I think we've gotten one side of this we haven't picked on, and that is what's the change the church makes in the family and in the dynamics of that, besides just the physical being of being there. And I think I want us to not forget the fact that families are united. They have an opportunity to a place to worship. They have kids have a place to play ball. Moms have a place to have a cup of coffee. I mean, I don't want to get stuck on the physical side of it. At the same time, hearts are changed. I mean, lives are changed, and it's shown when communities begin. Churches and hospitals are one of the first 2 things that show up. And churches have a positive impact on the community as far as the kids are concerned, the families are concerned. And I just don't want to get stuck on that fact that, let's look at it physically, but what's it going to do internally to the families as they grow stronger because the church is there? Thank you.
Give us your name, if you don't mind.
Keith Brantley.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Doug Osborne. I live at 20819 Maxim Parkway, Orlando, Florida. And I am the campus pastor of Cross Life East. And in May of 2024, we purchased and now own a vacant property on Lake Pickett in District 5. We intend to build a church on it per the current zoning code requirements, zoned A2. Our church has been deeply rooted in East Orlando area, Orange County, for the last 11 years. We've been worshiping at all those churches in those areas at different seasons and times. But part of being rooted is not just being present physically, but serving in the community and having a desire to meet the needs. And we've done that in many capacities. One that I'm most excited about is we've partnered with Neighborhood Center for Families, which was under the purview of former Commissioner Bonilla and I'm sure Commissioner Simrad. And so we look forward to serving with you. But we've served in many capacities. I just want you to know that we truly have a heart to love our community, a community where almost 70% of our people live. We bought this property knowing that we could go immediately to permitting and also a place that we can do ministry the way we want to. So as a result, we're raising money to build our new home. And we just ask you to keep that in mind and consideration.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Osborne. Next speaker, please.
All right, folks. Next to the speakers is going to start with Christy Nemeth, followed by Pam Capers, Karen Peros, Heather Miller, and Jessica Walker.
Good afternoon. My name is Pam Capers. I am a proud resident of the Lake Avalon Rural Settlement in District 1. That is West Orange County. I'm not anywhere near the proposed church. However, I am here to speak in support of Commissioner Simrad's efforts to establish rules to hold church development to the same planning and zoning requirements as any other business when they wish to build in our rural areas. This past November, the voters of Orange County overwhelmingly passed charter amendments to protect our rural areas from inappropriate development and urban sprawl. A church is no different than any other business that wants to build in our rural areas. They have the same impacts on residents, the environment, traffic, and infrastructure. Therefore, they should be subject to the same regulations, restrictions, and oversight. Please support Commissioner Simrad's efforts to draft regulations to hold churches to the same standard as any other business and protect our rural areas from inappropriate and unregulated development. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello there. My name is Jessica Walker. I live in 19305 Lake Pickett Road. Here's the thing now. I've actually drive and everything like that. I live close by to that area where you guys are going to plan on building that church. Well then, the traffic is going to be bad, and I've researched there's more than 12 churches in the whole area. And not only that, the traffic's going to be bad and everything else too. I lived in this community for so long. My mom and my dad, bless his heart, he passed away last year, lived in this whole entire place years and everything. We lived a lot longer than most people think, okay? Everyone does not know this, but my mom and my dad lived here a lot longer, everything else too. I wish that this church wouldn't be built here because the traffic, all the chaos, people getting hurt and everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
All right, next set of...
Was there a Christie?
All right. While Christie's making her way over, just checking Pam Capers, Karen Piros, Heather Miller. Barring those, the next ones will be Dwayne Mercer, Cynthia Harris, Casey Peck, and Ronald Daniel.
All right.
Okay. Hello. I'm Christy Nemeth. I live at 4754 North Fort Christmas Road. I live about a mile away from the proposed property that we are planning to build our Cross Life Church, the East Campus. And I've been on the board with the church trying to look for properties. And one of the things that I just want to bring up is that we are very, very rooted in the community, and we don't want to change what the community looks like. We want to make sure that our buildings, all of the codes are met, that we don't, when you drive by, you're going to think you're driving by a house, not something that stands out, not something that is large and out of the culture that you currently see, because we want to bring the people in that are just like the people that live right around the area. So we definitely don't want to be different. We want to meet the code. Okay?
All right, thank you, Ms. Nemeth.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll move to the next speaker.
My name is Dwayne Mercer, and I live at 11802 High Tech Avenue, and I'm the senior pastor of the mega church, okay, the downtown one. And let me just say, we do not wish to have an adversarial relationship with you at all. In fact, I think that if you were to talk to the city council in Oviedo, you would find that we're very good partners in Oviedo. I just had to tell me, the former councilman said that no institution in Oviedo has done more for the city of Oviedo than Cross Life Church. 11 years ago, when we planted this satellite, we intended them to become their own church. And they will after they build their building. So they're not going to be part of a mega church. I don't know if you can define us as a mega church or not, but even if you did, they're going to be their own church sitting on 15 acres of property. And so while we want to have a great relationship with you, we don't want to be treated differently. And the present laws right now, the present laws that we bought the land on, that we're planning to build, and the land that we're building on now, we want you to cooperate with us on the present laws. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pastor Mercer. Next speaker, please.
Cynthia Harris, 12 Channing Avenue. I'm here today to speak about the events that have been going on with the supervisor of elections. As constitutional officers, it is your duty that you're bound by the Florida Constitution. Today, I'm asking the Board of County Commissioners, and specifically you, Mr. Diamond, to do your job, which means I'm asking for a forensic audit of the supervisor of elections for the use of its spending that has occurred within almost the last 12 months. There are several things that have happened during this spending process that need to be outlined and defined, not just the excessive spending to go to nonprofits and other agencies. As an alum of Valencia, I believe Valencia is deserving of a scholarship. However, it should be governed by the Board of County Commissioners and not the supervisor of elections. I think it would be a good project to participate in. However, again, a forensic audit, please, immediately. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harris. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Ron Daniel. I live at 17,001 Oak Grove Hill Court, Orlando, Florida. Just wanted to focus on the stability reason that we want to build in our church. During COVID, the schools were the first to close and the last to open again. And it was very tough to meet the community's needs because of that. And so we want to get out of renting from the government and have our own building. And a primary reason for building is to meet the community. And to that point, our property's location is near people with many socioeconomic issues, from people that live in homeless camps to the very affluent. And they all have needs. We all want to offer our resources and opportunities to meet those needs. And I don't have time to read it now, but Jesus said in Matthew 30:6, he looked out on the crowd and had compassion for them. So I truly believe the role of the church and the community is to be much like your role as commissioners, and that's to love, serve, and meet the needs of the community. I hope that you'll partner with us in that regard. Regarding the potential additional flooding and use of lights and all that, we're following the zoning rules. We're supposed to be in the A2, and the zoning and building is supposed to track and make sure that flooding and septic tanks are done properly. And I would appeal to all the other churches and us as well to really err to the side of good neighborly behavior. If there's lights or something,
Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
Turn them off. So, thank you.
All right. Next speaker, please.
All right, our last batch of registered speakers is going to start with Kelly Starkey, followed by Lori Forrester, Bishop Kelvin Cabarrus, Luis Quinones, and Doug Nicholas.
I guess I should take this personally. Nobody, oh, we've got another one, thank goodness. Lori Forrester, 16050 Sand Hill Road, Winter Garden, Florida. I'm in favor of the board oversight for church development that Commissioner, congratulations, would like to investigate. The rural boundary was overwhelmingly approved by Orange County voters, and this is contrary to the current ordinance, which was written in 1957. This does not just affect this particular project, but it would affect any project in any rural area within Orange County, including the west side. Because of the passage of the rural boundary, no development should be issued a right to build a permit inside the rural boundary area. Rather, churches should be required to follow the exact same process as everyone else and file for a special exception, which includes community meetings, BZA, and BCC approval. Although the Vision 2050 will correct this, there's a gap period. please don't let anything fall through the gap between now and then.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
This is really a little bit intimidating. My name is Kelly Starkey. I live at 15804 Larkspur Street, Orlando 32828. I'm just speaking for myself. I've been going to Cross Life Church for a couple of years. First we started at Columbia Elementary School. When I started, that's where they were located, and then they had a piece of property across the street, and then apparently Orange County wanted that for storm drainage for the expansion of 419, so that went away, and we found a new property that was zoned something that we could already build on. We didn't have to do anything special or pay any special things for it. And now we're getting this ordinance or this report saying that although you have said that you're not doing the moratorium, which is great, I'm super happy, but it's difficult to feel like we don't have a target on our back from Orange County. When I first started at, I'm going to run out of time. The church is a place for people to come together. We come together as a congregation. We help Orange County with dissemination of information when they want to gather people also. Please keep this in mind.
All right, thank you, Ms. Starkey. Next speaker.
How you doing? My name is Luis Quinones. I live in 1845 Proctor Avenue, and we've been having heavy problems with this flooding during the rainy season, which is June, July, up to September. And we have called the Orange County Department to address this situation, and they haven't listened to us at all. And during the time when everything was in ruins, we lost a lot of our structure from the properties we had to rebuild. And it has to do with the storm sewers. They haven't, they're supposed to build new storm sewers, and they're going to build a new development right perpendicular to our properties. And I see that the new development needs new storm sewers, sidewalks, and all of that. We need that too. So we're entitled to also get the same goodies that they're going to get anyway. And, you know, we need to alleviate the situation. We have gone through a lot of losses, financial losses, and the insurance companies don't cover all of that. So I want you to please pay attention to that and to help us out.
So, Mr. Quinones, do you live in the Lake Pickett area?
No, no.
No.
We live by Dean Road,
Dean
Colonial.
Road. Oh, okay. Dean Road. Okay. Got it.
Close to Dean Road anyway.
All right. All right. And let's see. Byron, do we have someone? Okay. Public Works Director, Mr.
Yeah,
Joe
I talked to him already.
Okay.
So
all right. He can tell you where we are with kind of looking for a remediation plan there. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Next speaker.
Well, I'm not even really going to try in a minute. My name is Doug Nicholas. I live at 3121 Bay Lake Road in unincorporated Orange County, Florida, and zip code 32808, and I'm in District 2. I was here today to speak about a neighborhood issue which I wanted to basically be informative to the board about, which is really affecting the fabric of my small neighborhood of 27 homes, only 3 streets. I did bring a copy of the neighborhood, basically Hetherington Road, Bay Lake Road, north, south, east to west. This is the same printout from the map system on the county's website. There's no way I'm going to be able to cover the topic today, but I will give you a brief because I realize you guys meet every 2 weeks. I'll come back. The situation briefly is permits are being issued within our neighborhood, particularly at this house at the corner right here, for business purposes, basically a thrift store. People coming, shopping, driving, parking is happening all the time. zoning review issued the permit, which I brought the information to share. I'll come back next time. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish. By the way, we are allowed 2 minutes normally.
Well,
I
normally.
practiced over my workbench to the wall for hours. So.
Not a normal day. Byron,
Yes,
we have
we'll
someone back there.
We'll have staff
I'll bring
follow
him
up
back,
with
I
him.
promise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Nicholas, there's a staff person going to meet you in the back to just kind of see if they can be helpful to you in the interim.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, I am Kelvin L. Cabarrus, 7707 Rex Hill Trail, Orlando, Florida, 32818. I stand today saying with Cross Life Church that they don't stand alone, and although our mayor has clearly shared with us what the intentions of the commissioner was, I stand today wanting to caution our commission to realize that we've had a great relationship between church and government in this community, and I would like to see that continue. I know that while there's no moratorium being set today, we know that if this moves to special exception process, that this entire project can be killed. And I want to encourage you to know that when you made an oath today, you put your hand on a Bible. And it would be hypocritical to put your hand on a Bible and then stand against a church. And so I encourage each and every one of you today in consideration of this project that while you listen to the concerns of the community, know that the churches of this Orange County government help make up that community. And we will stand with this church and any other church that feels that their religious freedoms and their constitutional rights are being violated in any way. God bless you. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
All right, Bishop Cabarrus, thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Mayor, that was the last registered speaker this afternoon.
All right, with that, we have now come to the period where we will close the general public comment period of time, and we will move forward now on the remainder of our agenda. The next agenda item is the consent agenda. I'm going to call on Mr. Byron Brooks, the county administrator, to present the consent agenda for action.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three minor noted items. Need to pull one item off the consent agenda to be considered with the public hearing in a few minutes. And then I have two minor corrections on two items. The item to be pulled to be considered this afternoon with another hearing is item D12. That's D12 under Administrative Services Department. It's to do with I'm sorry. Throw it off here. All right. Item D12 will be heard concurrently this afternoon with public hearing B3. So that's D12 will be pulled to be considered with public hearing B3. And then two minor corrections on item D2. Item D2 under Administrative Services, simply changing the name of the organization or correcting the name of the organization to Community Health Centers. Again, just a minor correction. That should be Community Health Centers under D2. And then another correction, minor correction under informational items under the county comptroller. That's A1F, correcting the ordinance noted here to be ordinance number 2024-46. That's item, informational item under the county comptroller, just making correction to the ordinance number to make it number 2024-46. We just need to make those two for the record. And again, the only item being pulled is D12, which will be considered concurrently with the matter that is the subject of public hearing B3. With that, Mayor, staff presents the remainder of the consent agenda for board consideration.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second.
All right. Well, I do have to call for the question, but I will recognize Commissioner Scott as the motioner to approve the consent agenda item with the noted changes. The seconder on the motion is Commissioner Gomez-Cordero. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes, and it is unanimous. With the action that was just taken on the consent agenda, several times today, especially during the oath of office ceremony, it was indicated by several commissioners that one of the priorities for us in Orange County is to deal with the affordable housing crisis within our county. And so with the item that we just approved on the consent agenda, we did approve important investments in affordable housing through our Housing Trust Fund. We are establishing a transformative path towards achieving affordable housing for many of our county residents. In collaboration with Dominion, Orange County is awarding $7 million in gap financing to the Mirror, a 300-unit affordable rental housing project to be located at 1130 Spring Lane in Apopka, Florida, Commissioner Moore. The rent schedules will not exceed the maximum rent limits established annually by the U.S. Department of HUD, and the income limits will be no greater than 60% of the area median income, which in 2024, this year, the median area income is $46,440 for a household of four. The funds were designated from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in 2022, and the project was also awarded $4 million from the county's Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund to close the gap in construction funding due to inflationary cost increases. Another significant milestone of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund program is the revolving loan fund, the first revolving fund for affordable home ownership housing in Orange County. The second agreement approved this morning or this afternoon is to establish the revolving loan fund, which is a strategy of the Housing Trust Fund to provide low-interest loans to nonprofit developers to build new affordable homes and to acquire or rehabilitate affordable housing units for home ownerships in both unincorporated Orange County and incorporated Orange County, in other words, within the municipalities or cities as well. Our funding is limited to attached or detached owner-occupied homes, and eligible home buyers may not exceed household income of 120% of the area median income, which is about $115,800 for a household of four. The agreement allocates $3.5 million as the initial fund for the revolving loan fund. So that is what I'm saying to you is good news. We're one of the few counties in Florida that has its own housing trust fund, and it was mentioned about the charter amendments this last election cycle in November. The voters of Orange County has now said that it is part of our charter within Orange County to have and fund a housing trust fund going forward into the future from general fund revenues within our county. So that's good news as we are moving the needle to reduce the deficit of affordable housing within our community. So with that, we're going to move forward now. On our agenda, we're going to move to the discussion agenda, and we'll move fairly rapidly at this point. I'm going to call on Ms. Carrie Mathis, the manager of our procurement division, who will be presenting a procurement recommendation. And with that, Ms. Mathis, you are recognized at this time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The Procurement Committee has evaluated proposals for Orange County Convention Center sustainability initiatives. I'm requesting board selection of one firm and 2 ranked alternates, as well as the requested actions on the screen. Commissioner Wilson was assigned to the Procurement Committee.
All right. Commissioner Wilson, do you have a potential motion?
I do. I move for the selection of Branch Pattern Incorporated at 416 points, with SGM Engineering Incorporated at 381.87 points, and Exp US Services Incorporated at 378.22 points as the ranked alternates, as well as the requested action on the screen.
Second, Scott. All right. The second on the motion is Commissioner Scott. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. We'll move to the next item on our agenda at this time, and we're now up to item A2. A correction, B1, and, all right. B1. We're going to ask Commissioner Simrad at this time to present a report on establishing board oversight for church developments in rural areas. Commissioner Simrad, a lot has been said today about this issue.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. As you know, coming straight off of the campaign trail, you begin to hear information at the doors and within the community. And so I'm not seeking a moratorium today, but I am seeking a solution to zoning. So as you know, effective November 5th, voters established the rural boundary. And within the rural boundary, applicants would obtain a supermajority vote for rezonings that propose increased land use density or intensity. And what I have learned is that county code, which was developed in 1957, allows for churches on A2 land to be issued a right to build permit as long as they meet regulatory guidelines. So setbacks, height constraints, septic tank regulation. In contrast, churches built within rural settlements, which are also located within the rural boundary, are required to go through a BZA public hearing and meet specific criteria to ensure compatibility of the surrounding area. So while I understand that what the rural boundary specifically states is that if you would like to rezone land, it would require a supermajority. We understand what the spirit of that policy was. And for there to be no board oversight in terms of a right to build permit on A2 land, we don't really have any guarantee of compatibility or consistency with the surrounding area. So I know that within Orange Code, because I was looking at the policy there, that situation is rectified. And I also called surrounding counties to inquire what they permit on A2 land. And I know that, let's see, state law 604.5, most of those other counties and the planning departments referenced that right to builds were, issued with bona fide agricultural operations like barns and nurseries and greenhouses, but that they did require special exception criteria to be met on A2 land. So Orange Code, we know, is coming back July 2025, and there's some tension in District 5 with these two area communities that we heard both from, not where anybody is opposing a church. Nobody is saying that. But just asking for that if on rural settlements, which was in 2008, I believe, in 2008, that special exception via the BZA hearing was established in Orange County. And so we're just looking for consistency. So if a church, for example, is required to go through BZA in a rural settlement, and all rural settlements are within now the rural boundary, it seems like compatibility and consistency on A2 land, particularly when it's forthcoming in Orange Code, that we seek an update to the ordinance. And so we just don't want to have gaps. We want to make sure that all of our places of worship are a place that are compatible and consistent with the surrounding community. And that is, that is what the intention of the report was.
Okay, Commissioner Simrad, I think the board is clear on it. That will require, I think, as we move forward, some review by our planning and environmental division and services to review what is planned for Orange Code and to see if there is some gap there that is needed, some change or modification, as you have indicated, in terms of ordinance But in order to get to that process, there's some research, some presentation that has to be done, a workshop perhaps with the board, so that we all fully kind of understand any potential ramifications of changes or not to make changes. And we really haven't had the foresight of having those full discussions at this point. And I understand that you're not looking for a moratorium or a decision today, even though I think one may have construed that from a prior memorandum that was written. That's not really on the table today. So you're sharing this as information with the board today. We will task the County Administrator, Mr. Brooks, and his team to kind of work with you over time, have those conversations, and look at the potential how we can kind of manage through any particular concerns going forward. And that way the board will have full deliberation, full information to make an informed decision. Okay.
Do you have a timeline, Mayor?
Mayor, so the date, we took a look at the agenda as I had the opportunity to talk with Commissioner Sinrad and just talk about process timing, and typically come at the board where we can do a full-blown presentation. February 11th would be the first opportunity, the February 11th Board of County Commissioners meeting, that we could come back for that presentation, a work session rather, that day. Either the 11th or the 25th. On the 25th, oddly enough, the board work session is scheduled for rural protection zone. There are two areas that may be somewhat
on February 25th?
On the 25th. But the February 11th date, I'll just stick with that. It just happened to see that we have some other areas, topics related to rural preservation on the 25th. But February 11th is a date and time frame that we can come back and can provide some of that information that Commissioner Simrad has mentioned about in terms of the special uses, our codes, also what's in Vision 2050, more so Orange Code, what that language is, and have a full presentation so that the board is equipped and has the same understanding of the topic.
Okay, so February 11th will be the date that we will come back. That will give adequate time and briefings to occur with the entire board. Commissioner Scott, did you have a question or comment on this issue?
I had a question.
Okay.
So a number of speakers have talked about mega church, and so I'm just curious, as it relates to our county's code, is the mega church, is that defined? Because, I mean, I feel like the term mega church is subjective, and so if it is defined, is it defined by square footage? Is it just defined by population? So I'm just curious if it is or is not defined in county code, and if it is not, is it something that we can look to potentially define, and how would that go?
Sure, it's not a defined term in our code, and on the 11th, we certainly, the board can have that conversation of what it would mean. This is a bit more complex. There are uses, there are matters with respect to legal matters that that any entity must be respective of with respect to uses that are specific to churches. So that would be part of that discussion about what categories beyond churches, perhaps, what's in the special exception, what requires a special exception now in rural settlement or in other areas. So it is a broader conversation that we'll be prepared to come back on the 11th, working with Commissioner Simrad as well. But that could be certainly one of those items that, in that context, you can see if there should be a distinction in the context of this conversation.
I think that would be my request, Byron, and of staff, is that, given that I want to say 5, maybe more times, everyone has referenced the word mega church. And so I would love to know if it is even necessary to define that or not, because any given church could be 10 members, it could be 15, it can be several hundred or several thousand. And so just trying to clearly understand what that is, so as we are all communicating as members of this board and the members of the public, it is very clear to everyone who's participating in the conversation what is and what is not constituted a mega church and how that is defined, whether it's by population or by size. Again, from my gathering, it seems like several hundred members by some may be viewed as a mega church. And so is that the right litmus test? 400 members, 450 members? And so I think that would help kind of guide the conversation so that we're all kind of speaking in the same language. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes, I think when the memo first came out, it's understandable because you were new. One thing that I asked for when I first came back in 2019, as we had 4 new board members, is we had a special session in 105 with Jeff Newton on board procedures. And so that would be my recommendation, if there's some interest for us to go back and review that again, because it helps us to function and understand that even if we bring something up in a commissioner's report, that's getting consensus from the rest of us to then go back and ask the staff to bring something forward. So there's never a vote that first time we bring something up. That's in our rules of procedure. So I don't know how the rest of you feel about perhaps, doing that training again. I always find it helpful just to review rules because then we function at a higher level.
Are you asking if we support
that
a
concept,
training
yeah.
session?
Yeah.
Training is always good, just finding the time to do it. So we endeavor to look at an opportunity just to go over board procedures.
Okay.
Okay.
And then just so that I'm clear, I think my question then is for the administrator. And so what I understand that we're going to, at this meeting on February 11th, look at an ordinance versus our Vision 2050 and all the ramifications of whether we actually need an ordinance, because it was my understanding we're trying to get the Vision 2050 over the finish line. Will that all be discussed so that we can consider whether we want to just complete our work on 2050 or if we actually need an ordinance?
Yes, so we can show a timeline that if, one, it will certainly define, I anticipate, and obviously we'll be working with Commissioner on just kind of defining a lot of what the conversation we had yesterday about what's in our code currently. And then to really identify that gap that was mentioned as well. Then as we looked at if the board is so inclined to address that gap of what's covered in the rural settlement versus what's not covered in the rural boundary area, we can talk about the best way to do that. If the board wants to proceed with an ordinance, what we did say is that puts us on a timeline that's very similar to the same time frame we would anticipate bringing Vision 2050 and Orange Code to conclusion. So we can lay out parallel tracks of what that might look like. Or the option, and I know Commissioner Simrad mentioned that, perhaps it may be good to still have or advance the conversation about an ordinance in the event that Orange Code ultimately is delayed or not passed, so that that's addressed. So that could be part of that conversation as well. What is a timeline if the board's so inclined to consider making some changes to the current code?
Okay, thank you. Then I have one more question for Ms. Holmes. And so within keeping of the Burt-Harris Act, I'm understanding if we're talking about a new process. So this particular church here would, since they're already in the process, they bought the property, we're not talking about that church, are we? We're talking about any additional that would be passed after we got an ordinance or after we passed Vision 2050,
yes,
correct?
It's my understanding that in the work session that comes in for February, then we will present the options and considerations for the board looking forward, whether it be a part of Orange Code or some directive from you to do an ordinance that would be future-based.
But it will not affect this church?
It should not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Simrad, for, I would say, diving in, because I do think if you're hearing from people on two sides of something that's clearly of interest, that I appreciate that we're having the discussion. So I know it's going to be a long day, but I'm grateful that you're here and that you're listening to your people and that we're having the ability to work through these things. I think hitting a reset on the definitional terms and understanding that this isn't a yes or no on a religious institution, but instead looking at intensities and intensity of uses, potentially square footage, setbacks. These are sightings, right? These are sightings of intense uses and how we make that work while still making sure that we are allowing every religious institution the availability of practicing that religion. So I think there's, like, you've got to have to set that aside, and I don't know if when we look at however we're going to analyze this, if there, and I think Commissioner Scott hit on it a little bit, but looking at floor area ratio as opposed to capacity. Because I think even with capacity, sometimes you have some questions about, well, seating isn't necessarily something that's used for all religions and potentially events. So floor area ratio gives you some understanding at the very least of what the intensity would be, right? How much square footage is there. And then, of course, I think having some understanding also of the existing infrastructure. So if it is somewhere where, we would have to consider additional water treatment, septic treatment, those things, and clearly those have nothing to do with religious practice. Those are all just how we make sure we're taking care of people's bodily needs and the infrastructure for the surrounding neighborhood. So I would say if we can kind of take a look at those while we look at this. Thank you.
Commissioner Simrad.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify, there's no application yet in for this potential church. There's nothing that we're looking at or anything like that. The surrounding community is just asking that it be compatible and consistent with their community. So I wanted to clarify in terms of Commissioner Moore, there's no application yet.
Commissioner Moore.
I know there's not an application, but the property was already purchased under the former rules, so you can't apply that to a church that's already in the process. They have already pulled their conservation area determination, and they could put in paperwork tomorrow and to say there are no rules, there are rules. I mean, we still have setbacks and all those kinds of things, so that really isn't an accurate statement, but I stand on that they would have a Burt Harris action if we try to force them into this new process when they've already purchased the property, they've done a conservation area determination, and they're ready to put in for their building permits.
Okay, and all of that will be part and parcel to the conversation during the work session so that everything is adequately covered, any potential legal concerns, so if we modify or do nothing. So, okay. All right. With that, this will conclude the Commissioner's Special Report, and we look to February 11th for the work session to get everything clarified there. All right, we'll move forward then on our agenda for this afternoon. At this time, we'll move to the next item. I'm going to call on Ms. Lakin O'Hara, the Chief Planner from our Zoning Division, who will be presenting the Board of Zoning Adjustment Recommendations. And with that, you are recognized.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. On November 7th, 2024, the Board of Zoning Adjustment heard 9 cases, which were all recommended for approval. The BZA appeal deadline was Friday, November 22nd, 2024, and 1 appeal has been submitted for VA 2411-115. It's Corey Mills. An appeal public hearing has been scheduled for January 7th, 2025. It is my understanding that Commissioner Uribe would like to pull Omar Ramos, Madrigal Court, which is case number VA 2407-060 for a board called hearing. The Zoning Division will be requesting that this case be scheduled for public hearing. So with the exception of cases VA 2411-115 that has been appealed and VA 2407-060 that has been pulled for a public hearing, we request that the BCC accept the BZA recommended action and findings.
So moved.
Second, Scott.
All right. Again, that's procedurally. I do need to call a question. So please allow me to do what I'm supposed to be doing with managing the board meeting. All right. Is there a motion for approval with the exception of the one item that has been pulled? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Uribe, a second by Commissioner Scott. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes and it is unanimous. With that, now we'll move to the next item. This is a petition to vacate item A1. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Ms. Susan Usack, our Deputy Director of the Public Works Department, is going to frame this item. With that, Ms. Usack, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a petition to vacate PTV 24-08-029 from Richard and Cassette Arnold. The petition requests that Orange County vacate a portion of a 7.5-foot wide utility easement that lies in the northerly property line of the petitioner's residential lot containing approximately 1,540 square feet. The property lies south of Old Winter Garden Road and east of Woodlawn Cemetery Road. The petitioner wished to vacate to clear title to the property to allow for an existing structure to be permitted. Real Estate Management and Environmental Protection Divisions have no objection to the request. All utility providers have provided letters of no objection. Approval of this request will have no adverse effect on Orange County, and staff does not have an objection to the request. Our requested action is approval of PTV 24-08-029. The parcel is located in District 6, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, is the applicant on this item present? If so, would you like to come forward and offer any comments? All right, please come to the podium. And just remember to state your name and address if you don't mind.
Rick Arnold, 9001 Spence Court, Gotha, Florida. I do need to get the number for that jacket, though.
I got you.
This is essentially a outdoor kitchen. It's just some additional space that, because it's not that large a house, my wife and I have 3 boys, and a little bit of space is precious, so we would like to, and every time I go to grill, it starts raining, so that's kind of part of what's driving this.
All right, Mr. Arnold, if you'll just stand by for a moment.
Certainly.
Okay. Do we have members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item?
We have no speaker cards for this item, Mayor.
All right. Then we're going to close the public hearing at this time. We'll go to the District Commissioner. Commissioner Scott, would you like to offer a potential motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, Gomez.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Gomez-Cordero. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. We do have Commissioner Uribe and Commissioner Moore who were not present for that vote. We'll move to item A2 on the agenda. We'll open the public hearing on this item. And Ms. Usack, once again, you are recognized to frame this item.
This is a petition to vacate PTV 24-04-1016 from Richard Selikoff of K. Hovnanian Osprey Ranch, LLC. The petitioner requests that Orange County vacate 10 1.5-foot wide portions of a 5-foot wide utility easement, all located within the plat of Osprey Ranch Phase 1, containing approximately 1,880 square feet. The property lies north of Hartsock Road and east of Avalon Road. The petitioner wishes to vacate to clear title to the property for future development. Real Estate Management and Environmental Protection Divisions have no objection to the request. All utility providers have provided letters of no objection. Approval of this request will have no adverse effect on Orange County, and staff does not have an objection to the request. Our requested action is approval of PTV 24-04-016. The parcel is located in District 1, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, as the applicant on this item present, would you like to come forward and offer any comments? Okay, she's coming forward.
Good afternoon. Melissa Martinez, Pullis and Bennett, here on behalf of KHUV. Power company accidentally asked for more easement area than they needed, and so we're just here to request the vacate of the additional area that would allow the builder to fit their product on the lot without being encumbered by an easement.
All right, thank you. Stand by. Are there members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item?
We have no speakers for this item, Mayor.
All right, then we're going to close the public hearing. We'll go to the district commissioner. Commissioner Wilson, would you like to offer a potential motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the requested action.
Second, Scott.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Wilson, seconder is Commissioner Scott. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes, and it is unanimous. All right, we'll move to the next item on our agenda this afternoon. This is item B3, and this will include the item that was pulled from the earlier agenda, item D12 that was pulled from the consent agenda by County Administrator Brooks. We'll open the public hearing on this item, and Mr. Tim Hall, our Environmental Programs Administrator, will frame this item. Mr. Hall, you recognize.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Today I'm presenting a conservation area impact permit application for Correct Craft Real Estate LLC, number CAI 2309043. This is to widen and improve a road. Here's a location map. The property is located at 14700 Aerospace Parkway, and it's depicted in red there in the approximate center of the map. Here is an aerial photo of the subject property. It's outlined in yellow. The project area of this particular CAI permit request is in the southwest corner of the parcel, and it's circled in red. It's a very small portion of the property. Some background for you. On July 12, 2006, EPD issued a Conservation Area Impact Permit, or CAI, which was number 05-102, to the applicant for impacts to 0.75 acre of Class 1 wetlands and 0.95 acre of required upland buffer for an entrance road to their facility. Mitigation for those impacts included on-site preservation of 13.15 acres of wetlands and 3.26 acres of upland buffer, and also the purchase of 1.60 credits from the TM Econ Mitigation Bank. As a condition of the permit, the on-site preservation areas were placed into a conservation easement. And here is an aerial photo showing the conservation easement areas in blue. And keep in mind, we're going to be talking about the one in the southwest corner along Wee-Wahooty Road. Here's the current request. On September 14th of 2023, EPD received a new application for a CAI permit to impact a portion of wetland that was previously placed into a conservation easement. The applicant is proposing 0.17 acre of direct impacts and 0.38 acre of secondary impacts to Class 1 wetlands in order to expand and improve a roadway. The impacts are proposed on the north side of Wee-Wahooty Road, for Wee-Wahooty Road, near the future intersection with Sunbridge Parkway. The applicant states the impacts are necessary for the roadside slopes and swales and to comply with the design standards of the City of Orlando. More about that in just a few slides. And the Florida Department of Transportation. This project's being reviewed under the prior version of Article 10 since the application was received prior to the effective date of the new code, which was June 1st this year. Here is the site plan. The applicant's proposing 0.17 acre of direct impacts, which are shown in that hot pink cross-hatching, and then 0.38 acre of secondary impacts, which are shown in the yellow cross-hatching. Here is the engineering site plan with the proposed direct wetland impacts outlined in red. And that's the future segment of Sunbridge Parkway on the left side of the graphic there. Here are some photos of the proposed impact area in the current condition. And as mitigation for the impacts, the applicants proposed to purchase 0.17 credit at Lake X Mitigation Bank, which is located in Osceola County, but it services the project area. The proposed mitigation includes offsetting the loss of wetland function within the conservation easement impact area, which was previously preserved in that CAI permit 05-102, and additionally the new proposed wetland impact. So they're accounting for the value of the conservation easement area under the old permit and the new proposed impact. EPD has determined that the mitigation is appropriate and sufficient to offset the adverse impacts to wetlands that will occur as a result of the project. Going into the review criteria, I won't read all of this for you, but these are the two applicable review criteria for the wetland impacts. The first one requires that they minimize or eliminate any impact upon the beneficial environmental productivity of wetlands consistent with development rights. And then the second criteria requires that they either demonstrate that there are no other feasible or practical alternatives that will permit a reasonable use of the land, or that there's an overriding public benefit. In this case, they have to meet the reasonable use criteria, since Weewahootie Road is a private road, and so it's not an overriding public benefit. Here's our review analysis. The project area directly abuts Weewahootie Road and its associated roadside ditches, which have affected the wetland area proposed for impact. During the permitting in 2006, the subject wetland was a mixed forested system, but it's since changed to a shrub system due to edge effect, which is negative effects that happen to wetlands along their edges, particularly along roads like this. And that's negatively altered the vegetative structure and functionality of the wetland. Currently, the vegetative community composition of the impact area consists primarily of invasive and exotic species. Additionally, no imperiled species were documented in the impact area. And so based on the documentation and justifications provided by the applicant, staff's determined that the applicants demonstrated the proposed site plan allows for reasonable use of the land and that there are no other feasible or practical alternatives available to further minimize or eliminate impacts to the Class 1 wetlands. And therefore, the request meets criteria for approval. So this is associated with this morning's consent item D12, and that's the release of the conservation easement. You would have to approve the partial release of the area, and you can see it there. It's that area that's bolded in the center of the graphic. That would be the part that is released. And I mentioned earlier the City of Orlando. So this CAI application came in September 13th of last year when the parcel was still within unincorporated Orange County, but it's since been annexed into the City of Orlando. Since the application came in prior to the annexation, but it involves release of a portion of a CE or conservation easement related to a prior county permit, EPD and the applicant agreed to complete the wetland permitting for this project through Orange County, and that protects our interests in the development rights of the conservation easement. However, the future roadway construction permitting will be handled through the City of Orlando. So our finding is EPD staff has made a finding that the request is consistent with Orange County Code, Chapter 15, Article 10, Sections 15.362.5 and 15.396.3a, and recommends approval of CAI permit number CAI 23-09043. We have two actions requested. One is for approval and execution of partial release of conservation easement by Orange County and authorization to record instrument for Nautique Boat Company Incorporated, Correct Craft, CAI 23-09043, District 4, through Real Estate Management, and then acceptance of the findings and recommendation of the Environmental Protection Division staff and approval of conservation area impact permit CAI 23-09043 for Correct Craft Real Estate LLC, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. It's in District 4, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hull. Is the applicant on this item present? If so, would you like to come forward and offer any comments? Moving forward.
Dale Dowling, Breedlove Dennis and Associates, 330 West Canton Avenue, representing the applicant. We agree with staff's findings and move to, hope you guys accept it.
All right, thank you. If you'll stand by. Do we have any members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item?
We have no speaker cards for this item, Mayor.
All right, with that, then we'll close the public comment period at this time, and we'll move to the District Commissioner. Commissioner Gomez-Cordero, would you like to offer a potential motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. He said it all I was going to say, but it was clear. I mean, it belongs to Orange County before, now is the City of Orlando. But I wanted to ask a question just to have it in record. I know there's a wetlands and, you know, the classification, A1 or B2, whatever, but I just want to know, is this going to be any cost, Mr. Weiss, for any flooding in the future? Because I know we're building and, you know, that whole area is going to be, you know, in one point, you know, developed. So is that something that could cost any?
It shouldn't, Commissioner. Ultimately, the City of Orlando is responsible for the permitting and construction of the roadway project itself, and so they'll have stormwater systems associated with the roadway infrastructure that ultimately they're permitting and constructing.
Okay, thank you. So do I do one motion or two? One?
It can be one motion.
One, okay. Motion to approve?
Second, Scott.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We do have a question. Commissioner Simrad.
Thank you. So I would just like to say, although that it should not result in any flooding, the current model that we have used in Orange County and across Florida has led us to believe that while it shouldn't happen, flooding does happen. And to take an acre of Class 1 wetlands to expand and improve a roadway. And when we mentioned that the reason why it's shrub now and not quality is because of the impact, the negative impact of the roadway. So we take this acre, sacrifice it. What happens to the adjacent acre next to it? It deteriorates as well. I'm a no vote. Thank you.
All right. We do have a motion and a second. Commissioner Scott was the second, right? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
All right. Motion passes with Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Simrad voting no, 5-2.
Mayor, if I may, just for the benefit of the clerk, the first half of that was the consent agenda item D12 that was pulled. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't explicitly stated, but it is.
All right. With that, we'll move forward then to the next item on our agenda. This is item C4. We'll open the public hearing on this item. And with that, Mr. Thalmuller, I understand you're going to frame this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Item C4 is case CDR 2303-088. This is a substantial change to the Dean Road DDCM Townhomes Plan Development. Property is generally located west of Dean Road, north of East Colonial Drive, District 5. The request is to amend the existing land use plan to change the allowed use from 56 multifamily units to 46 single-family townhome units. Here we have the future land use map. Property is designated low, medium density residential future land use. Same designation to the north and east, low density residential to the west, and then commercial as you go south towards East Colonial. Here we have the existing zoning map. As mentioned, property is currently zoned PD, surrounded by single family other residential districts, as well as retail commercial district, again, as you go south towards Colonial. Here we have an aerial of the property. You can see the property is undeveloped. There are a mixture of single-family, commercial, institutional uses surrounding the property. Here we have a copy of the PD land use plan showing the boundary of the property, access, entitlements, and development standards. If you could read that, it would say 46 single-family attached residential dwelling units. And the recommendation is to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and approve the Dean Road, the substantial change to the Dean Road DDCM Townhomes PD subject to the conditions listed under the DRC recommendation in the staff report. This item is in District 5. Mayor and commissioners have been briefed on this item and staff are available for questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant on this item present? And if so, would you like to come forward?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Carolyn Haslam with Ackerman, 420 South Orange Avenue, Suite 1200 in Orlando. We've read the staff report and we don't have any questions. There was a person with a comment that might speak today, and we went ahead and met with them and talked to staff about their issues, which were larger and related to stormwater, but I'm happy to answer any questions should that come up.
All right, if you'll stand by for a moment. Do we have any members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item? We do have one.
We do have one speaker card, Mayor.
Okay. He did speak during public comment. If you want to speak on this item, you can speak. If he didn't fill out the card.
We do have a card for this item.
Okay.
We had a public comment card, generally speaking of flooding issues for this morning, and a speaker card specifically related to this case for the afternoon.
All right, you're recognized. Mr. Quinones.
Yes, my name is Luis Quinones. I live in 1845 Proctor Avenue, and we're having problems with the flooding issues during the rainy season, which starts from May until September, even further. And we have called the county about remedying this situation. And now that we know that there's going to be a new development close by, and they're going to have storm sewers, and they're going to have new sidewalks, we want that also to be part of our community, for them to include us in that kind of change, because we don't have storm sewers close by.
Okay.
And to make sure that when we call the Orange County county utilities, for them to reconsider us as people, as real serious complaints, because we have had a lot of losses in our property, damages on the wood structures and rotting wood structures that we had to be replacing, and we still are replacing those wood structures. And the insurance companies don't cover any of that for us. So make sure to help us out with the storm sewers, new storm sewers, so we could drain the water into the storm sewers. We'll devise drain systems that we could use to divert the water into the storm sewers. So that's the main concern, for them to really do that work, because we've been like this for many years. So it's about time that they start considering us. We're taxpayers just like everybody else.
All right, Mr. Quinones, if
I
you'll
do agree about the development. We all do.
If you'll stand by, I'll give the applicant an opportunity to offer any rebuttal comments, and then I'll go to staff to see if any of our staff has any comments in reference to your concerns. Okay.
Mayor, if you could just state, he said you agree. Are you for the development or not?
Yeah, I'm for the development, because what we got over there and that big empty lot is that the homeless people are coming over there to live there, to homestead, and there's a different kind of homeless people, people that are sick in the brain, that could hurt us. And there's a daycare center right next to it, right next to the property. And, you have to be very concerned about that.
Okay, I got
the
it.
safety of these little kids.
All right, Mr. Quinones. Yeah. Unfortunately, you are out of time.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to the applicant for any rebuttal comments, and then we'll go to staff if they have any additional.
Good afternoon. My name is Kendall Keith with CESO 1000 Legion Place, Orlando. And Mr. Quinones, I understand his property is about a block south of the subject property here. And I don't want to speak for staff, but he did have a conversation that I was standing there for with Joe Kunkel, and it looks like there may be maintenance concerns, so he was going to follow up with roads and drainage on that. But of course, this project will comply with all stormwater requirements otherwise as we move through engineering and PSB. Thank you.
All right, if you'll stand by for a moment. Any additional comments now for staff or Joe?
Joe, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I had an extended conversation with Mr. Quinones before the public hearing. He lives a little bit south, like 2 blocks south of the proposed project. There is a swale drainage in his front yard that is not draining his property. So there are some concerns with the size of the swale drainage, the ability for him to get his stormwater off his property into the swale. And then he had also asked about is there a possibility of adding sidewalks and other enhancements, possibly even a closed drainage system in his neighborhood. It is an older neighborhood, so there are no sidewalks right now, and there's, like I said, soil drainage. So our roads and drainage folks, I've sent them a message to contact Mr. Quinones and meet sometime later this week, and then we'll see what is there on site. Of course, do either maintenance and or enhancements to the drainage, and then see if we can add their area to our sidewalk program. So that's the status.
All right, thank you. With that, we're going to close the public hearing if there are no other speakers at this point, and we'll go to the district commissioner, Commissioner Simrad. Would you like to offer a potential motion?
Yes, motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Simrad, second by Commissioner Scott. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes, and it is unanimous. And Commissioner Uribe, you were voting in the affirmative, right? Okay, all right. All right, with that, we'll move to the next item on our agenda at this time, and this is item C5. We'll open the public hearing on this item, and we'll call on Mr. Thel Mueller once again to frame this item.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is case CDR 2407175. This is a substantial change amendment to the Grassmere Reserve Plan development. Property is generally located north of Orange Blossom Trail, south of West Ponkin Road, east of Junction Road, and west of Cayman Circle. The request here is a change to the PD to allow one extra vehicular access point from the commercial portion of the site, roughly 5 acres along Orange Blossom Trail, to allow for a total of 2 vehicular access points on the Orange Blossom Trail from the property. Here we have the future land use map. You can see the portion of the PD circled here does have commercial future land use. As mentioned, it is currently zoned PD, part of the Grassmere Reserve PD. Here we have the aerial. Property is currently undeveloped, as is the northern portion of the PD there. However, a subdivision plan for the 200 single-family residential lots has been approved for that site. Here we have a copy of the land use plan, which is oriented differently than the aerials you were just looking at, or maps you were just looking at. You can see circled here are the 2 access points from the site onto the commercial, where previously the land use plan just showed 1. And with that said, staff recommendation is to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and approve the amendment to the Grassmere Reserve PD, subject to the conditions listed under the DRC recommendation in the staff report. This case is in District 2. The Mayor and the Commissioners have been briefed on this, and staff are available for questions.
All right, is the applicant on this item present? He's coming forward if you'd like to make any comments.
Good afternoon. Derek Ransberg with Kinley Horn on behalf of the applicant. 200 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida 32801. We agree with staff's recommendation for approval, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ransberg, if you'll stand by. Do we have members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item?
We have no speaker cards for this item, Mayor.
All right, then we'll close the public hearing. We'll go to the District Commissioner, Commissioner Moore. Would you like to offer a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the recommended action.
Second, Gomez.
All right. I think Commissioner Uribe started speaking first, so we'll give the seconder to Commissioner Uribe. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. Mayor, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Dr. Simrad.
Thank you, sir. I have one concern on this. This is on a rural settlement, and according to our comprehensive plan within the familia of flu 6-point-something, there is reference to ingress and egress serving rural settlements specifically. Having an additional entrance off of OBT opens the door for promoting traffic to come externally to the rural settlement. And in District 5, we have 5 rural settlements, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So we set a precedent with votes when we start doing this. I don't think that we should be welcoming large amounts of traffic to come through a rural settlement. So I'm a no vote on this one as well. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Simrad is a no vote. I believe all the others were aye. Yep. All right. Motion passes, and it is 6-1. With that, we'll move forward then to the next item on our agenda, and this is item D6. We'll open the public hearing on this item. Mr. Thal Mueller, we'll look to you to frame this item.
Thank you, Mayor. This case is CDR 2406145. This is a substantial change amendment to the Bryan Square plan development. This site is generally located east of State Road 535, west of Lake Bryan, north of World Center Drive, and south of I-4. This is a PD substantial change to use the trip conversion matrix to convert the currently approved entitlements for the affected 5.52 acre portion of the PD from 280 hotel rooms to 298 multifamily units. There's also one waiver from Orange County Code associated with this request to allow the maximum height for the multifamily use to be a maximum of 125 feet, 11 stories, in lieu of maximum of 60 feet. Here is the future land use. Property is designated Activity Center Mixed Use, indicating it's within the iDrive Activity Center. As mentioned, property is currently zoned PD Plan Development District, part of the Lake Bryan Square Plan Development. Here we have an aerial. You can see that the affected portion of the PD is currently undeveloped. The hotel to the north was that phase 1 portion of the PD, currently developed with the hotel. Here we have a copy of the Plan Development Land Use Plan. You can see the affected portion of the PD under the red square there, as well as the entitlements development standards there on the left side of the plan. With that said, staff's recommendation is to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and approve the amendment to the Lake Bryan Square plan development subject to the conditions listed under the DRC recommendation in the staff report. This item is in District 1. The Mayor and the Commissioners have been briefed on this item, and staff are available for questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant on this item present? All right, we have Ms. Rebecca Wilson coming forward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. It's already a long afternoon. Here on behalf of the applicant, we agree with the staff report. Two things that I wanted to point out that are unique. Even though there is a waiver for 11 stories, the PD is currently approved for 14 stories. So this is actually a 3-story reduction in height. The project is also, as mentioned by staff, currently approved for a hotel use. As you'll see in the matrix, the trip conversion, this is a 90 p.m. trip reduction. So we ended up with a lower building and a reduction in trip size. With that, Mayor, I would just like the opportunity to address any concerns.
All right, Ms. Wilson, if you'll stand by. Do we have members of the public present who wish to be heard on this item? It appears that we do have a few. Mr. Thalmuller, do you have a couple of cards?
I have one speaker card for this item, Mayor.
Okay.
Jake Harrell.
Mr. Farrell, and then we'll go to the second person.
Good afternoon. Jake Harrell with Becker Law Firm, 111 North Orange Avenue, Suite 1400. Orlando, Florida. I'm the attorney for the adjacent Phase 1 Condominium Association that was part of this development. It's the Blue Heron Beach Resort Condominium Association. I'm here today on behalf of the association to voice objection to the proposed Lake Bryan Square PD application to convert current neighboring hotel entitlements to multifamily residential entitlements. The reason for this objection is threefold. I'll keep it short because I know we're close to the end of the day. First, the staff report notes and experience in this area of Orange County tells us the traffic is a huge problem for this stretch of 535. The proposed location is only a mile south of the 535 Hotel Plaza intersection for Disney Springs, which is one of the most congested spots in Orange County. The staff report notes that there are 3 segments of failing transportation concurrency roadways surrounding this proposed development, and there's no plan contemplated in the approval to address those issues. Conversion from hotel use to multifamily residential is going to increase the number of cars frequenting this parcel exponentially, we believe, and we take issue with the trip conversion matrix. We think that needs to be updated with a new traffic study. Those trips and the commuting are also going to occur more regularly during peak rush hour, further exacerbating the traffic issues that we see down there. Next, the staff report notes that there's no school capacity available for residential development at this location, and that's a huge issue. Again, with no proposed resolution, that's going unaddressed. So there's going to be kids here with no seats. Additionally, if capacity is somehow found and created in time, we're going to have another congestion issue with school buses coming into Blue Heron Beach Drive. Finally, while we note that a community meeting was not required for this application, there's been no attempt at coordination with neighboring development. The association is concerned that this switch in entitlements is simply a cost-saving attempt by the developer to avoid having to construct what would have been additional amenity facilities for the hotel, and they're going to use the existing ones that are dedicated to the condo, which are already overloaded. So we'd ask you to vote it down and send it back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney Harrell, if you'll stand by. And next speaker, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Anthony Scrow. I am an owner of two of the units in the adjacent hotel condos that the attorney was just mentioning. And I also object to the proposed change of zoning, because in addition to what the attorney said, the parking situation is pretty bad. We have in the two towers that have been built, the parking is less than it really should be, less than one spot per unit. And if you look at the map of the proposed four-tower development, you'll see that the extra parking is made up in the last two units. And now they are asking to not build the two units that were supposed to be built, and build I guess it's a multi-family residential, and there's going to be maybe 10% more units there, and we will not. The parking will be very bad. Will be in a very bad situation, and as he said, the traffic will be bad. The parking is going to be very bad, and then on top of that, I think I agree with him that the issue is really that they can't trying to build something that's less expensive. But I would also mention that when homeowners bought initially, they pay, this was in 2006, before the 2008 recession, and they paid very dearly for it, and the price declined very badly during the recession and has not really come back up. And so they are in the same position that the developer is in, and I don't think it's fair that
Mr. Scroll,
the thing is
Mr. Scroll,
changed. And,
you are out of time.
Oh.
That's what
Well,
that buzzing
I don't think
means.
it's fair.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Wilson, we'll give you the opportunity to make any rebuttal comments at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll go.
And you got about 14 minutes left.
Oh, then I'll take my time. As to schools, if you look at the land use plan that was approved in the top right corner, the total population of school children generated is 4. We have since updated our concurrency requirement, which is the analysis that comes second, and we meet concurrency. I see a look of bewilderment on Commissioner Wilson's face. Orange County has a separate generation rate for high-rise. So any building that is 7 stories or taller and has an integrated parking garage, they have found, based on a county-wide study, that those generate fewer children, because usually people with children do not choose to live a place that has a parking garage. So that's using OCPS's trip generation, and we have to abide with school concurrency. The second is a concern about parking. As you noted, there are no parking waivers. We are complying with all requirements related to parking, and there is no shared parking on our with the adjacent property owner. Likewise, my client does not have the right to use the adjacent owner's amenities. We will be building our own amenities. We are not using their amenities. And then with regard to traffic, what was not mentioned is the first paragraph under transportation planning, and that's on page 3, where it states that we have a transportation capacity reservation certificate, which holds these trips on the road that my client paid for that reservation, that will then be converted, and that was also my point, that once we do that conversion based on the ITE rates that are accepted by the county and the Institute of Transportation Engineers, there's actually a reduction. So we do already meet transportation concurrency. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I will assure you my client is not doing this in order to save money, but simply that they would prefer build multifamily on this site.
All right, Ms. Wilson, if you'll stand by for a moment. We are going to close the public hearing portion at this time, but we do have, before I go to the District Commissioner, Commissioner Wilson, we have 3 commissioners at this point who have indicated a desire to speak or have questions. Commissioner Scott, followed by Commissioner Uribe, followed by Commissioner Gomez-Cordero. Commissioner Scott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Wilson, just for my clarity, this has not come before us before. This is separate from the other property at 535. Am I correct? Okay. My questions are for you, Ms. Wilson. So you just referenced an updated plan with the school. Can you speak to that again?
So what was mentioned was when we apply for schools, the first thing we do is we apply for capacity.
Understood.
And the capacity looks at the exact zoning. It's a snapshot of availability today.
Okay.
What you then update with is a request for concurrency, and based on the interlocal agreement between the county and OCPS, OCPS then looks at a larger adjacent zones, and they also look at schools that are within their 3-year plan. And so that is the process that we have to go through for.
I'm clear on the process. I'm just saying the document, you referenced the document, so you had an updated plan.
And I apologize, I did not bring the concurrency with me, but I'm happy to.
I guess what I'm getting at is you
that.
referenced the new plan. You held up a document. So
that plan wasn't new. That's the existing plan that you're approving today. And there was a concern about students, and my point was that by OCPS's calculation, the total students created by this project are 4.
But what I'm getting is, what was the date of that calculation? Like, when was that? So when was that calculation made?
So this calculation was made when we submitted the plan, but the generation rates have not changed.
Copy that. Okay.
Okay.
And then you referenced about the amenities. You would construct your own amenities. You said that the residents of this proposed development would not access the other properties' amenities. In that statement, can you kind of expand in a sense? Is it a physical barrier, card access? Because I can say, hey, any given resident is not going to access this property, but if there's no fence or barriers or things in place, then they can just walk over there absent a security guard or a gate. And so I'm just trying to understand, you say that, but what mitigating factors, if any, that you have in place to be able to support that?
So I have not been to the condominiums that are next door, but my assumption and understanding would be that they would have gated access, because you're required to have a gate around your pool and your amenities per county code. Similarly, we don't want people using our amenities, and we will also have a gate that is by card access.
Oh, looks like partner may have a...
Y'all are going to call Bob up? We're going to be here all afternoon now.
Bob, if you could be concise in your response, I'm just trying to understand that specific question.
I was actually involved with this property since 2004,
Understood.
and I even designed the existing project. The amenities that serve the existing 2 towers are only served through internal gated areas. So when this multifamily project gets built, there's no physical connection between the 2. So if someone wants to jump a fence or force their way into the pool deck that serves the existing tower, that's not really going to happen, because the way the multifamily be designed, there's no physical connection between the 2 whatsoever.
I understand. I get that. What I'm asking is, what specifically are you guys doing? Because clearly there's a concern that he has expressed on behalf of the folks that he represents. And so my question is, what are you doing to mitigate that, if anything?
We're not doing anything to mitigate that, because there's no physical way now or in the future for our people to get there, because the people who live in our multifamily don't have key cards to get into their unit, to then go through the building, to then get into their amenities.
Okay. All right, I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Uribe.
I appreciate this, and there's a couple questions that I want to get to. So clearly, these are high-end multifamily, correct? And the adjacent property is as well, correct? Okay, so we're really not seeing someone saying, I don't like my pool, I'm coming to your pool, and it just being something to that level. Because one of the things we tend to see is you've got high-end living. You're not looking to find the next apartment over. If that were the case, you'd move there. And also, by my understanding, this is very secure because you're in a high-traffic tourism area too, where you could have anybody just say, well, we want to go use their pool and things like that. So you have to protect the dignity of the people who live there. Part of the question was already answered because there really isn't like a sidewalk connecting you guys, and it's not made in a, and I'm assuming, or clarify for me, it's not made in a way where you desirably are trying to share properties.
That's correct. And Nick, I don't know if you want to go back, if there's an aerial that shows it, that describes it.
I was looking for that here, yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe zoomed out a little bit. We're next to each other, just like projects get built next to each other.
Just like everything else. Okay, on the height, is it compatible with what's surrounding that area? Is that the trend that we're seeing at 120 feet?
Yes, so it was previously approved for 14 stories, so this is actually a reduction in the PD of the height.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I was reading in here, but what is around you? What is, I mean, we're not going to have an 11-story building next to 2 stories. Can you share
Bob,
a little?
what's our neighbor's building?
Commissioner, the existing 2 towers are 14 stories.
I can hear you.
I beg your pardon. The existing 2 towers are 14 stories. Almost every PD that I know of in the area has been approved for even higher buildings. We actually have an approval for 300 feet on this PD.
Okay.
A blanket approval, which we're not even going to get close.
Okay, I understand that. And then lastly, again, on the amenities, so you're at the county code for parking, because again, this area is not somewhere where you can easily just park next door and walk over. So you guys are at capacity in the correct regulation that the county requires.
We are not seeking any waivers to the county code. We will park at or above the county code.
Great. And then just as a follow-up to Commissioner Scott's question, all of your property and any access to it will require key card entrances for the folks who live on that property also. Is there like, I'm sure, is there going to be like an office in that building too? And,
yes, there's a leasing office. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Commissioner Gomez-Cordero.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Wilson, I have a question. There is, how many entrances are there going to be available for this project?
So when you say entrance, I want to make sure I'm answering the correct question. Do you mean like vehicular access points?
Yes, in and out.
Yeah, so I don't know, Nick, if you want to go back to the land use plan. So there are sort of 3 existing access points off of State Road 535.
So then that arrow, the first one, right, in the corner, where that goes through that hotel in order to go to the project?
Yes, yes. So this was all part of one PD.
Oh, okay.
And so, yes, there is, and if we go back to the road network, it is already built with a stub out to this.
Okay, so, and there's no issue with the neighbors, with the next door? There is?
She's asking if
So then what, yeah, so
the
how?
new transportation of vehicles will go through the adjacent parking to get to this parking.
Yes, based on easements, yes.
Okay. And you said it's from 14 stories, they're going to be 11 stories?
Yes, we're reducing it.
Reducing it? Ooh, okay. What's in front of that, of your project, of the property there?
It's another.
That building there?
It's a retail and a tourist commercial fun and like a recreational use, but it's all retail commercial. And the answer to your other question is we're also proposing a cross-access easement on our property for the benefit of the existing towers, if they want to use it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Simrat.
Thank you. I had two questions. The first was, and I asked staff yesterday during a briefing, but just to ensure that these don't become Airbnb rentals, what's the process?
So there is a condition of approval that has the minimum time of stay, and that is condition number approval 16. So it is not our intent for these to be Airbnbs, and then number 16 has that the length of stay shall be for a minimum of 180 consecutive days.
What's the enforcement?
That you all have that as enforcement, and this is being owned as an institutional apartment, right? And when I say institutional, I mean by it is owned and managed and financed to a Class A apartments. And so we will also internally have our enforcement. We also do not want it to be an Airbnb for a couple of reasons. The most important is for tax purposes. So we have to have a minimum stay of 6 months or more in order that we are not taxed differently on both the leases and from a property standpoint.
So within the leases of an individual apartment, would we see text that would say that it cannot be used as an Airbnb? Because we can have people rent an apartment.
Yes.
And they don't live there, but they show residence there for the amount of time that is specified.
So not only will it state that it can't be an Airbnb, but you also can't sublease without permission, because people have to go through both background checks and a financial check to make sure you can pay your rent. So you also can't just sublease it.
Okay, thank you. Second is this area, this corridor, has some of the lowest incomes. It's very difficult to find areas where people can work and live. And if this structure was originally 14 stories, is it possible to have 3 of attainable housing?
So you're asking us to add more units and make those attainable?
Well, either I understand the financial model that you would need to meet your numbers, and so I think that you've called that at like 11 stories. But given the fact that this area doesn't have a high income bracket, for the workers that are within that area, is there any consideration for using the original stature or the original height, and then looking at incorporating attainable housing level?
Yeah, I appreciate the creativity. I don't think that's something that we'd be able to accomplish with this project, though.
Then what about in the existing units?
In the existing unit?
Of the 11 stories.
So nothing's built there now?
Within the existing 11 stories, can we have some units that would be attainable as a condition?
I don't think that's something we're offering today.
Thank you.
There's a gentleman nodded in the back. I don't know if he had something, context to help answer the question.
Yeah, my name's Ryan Solo. I'm the president of development with Silver Hills. We're the developer behind the proposed project. Just one comment. Our typical unit size tends to be significantly smaller than the traditional apartment. So generally speaking, when you look at other Class A multifamily developments around the Orlando metro, you're going to see a typical unit size in the range of, call it 800 square feet for a 1-bedroom. Our unit size is, our average unit size is actually a little bit lower. We're, low sixes and sevens. And the reason that matters from a purpose of attainable housing is if we have less square footage, the overall rent for the actual unit goes down. So while it's not necessarily tied to, an affordable housing metric, the fact of the matter is that we are building smaller units than what is typically industry standard, so that allows us to be a little bit more affordable.
Thank you. What is your price point?
It's a good question, but at this point, we're still kind of evaluating the market. But
does it fall within attainable housing price points at all?
At this point, we're still evaluating where we are at the market.
Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. So is he a part of your, he said I just want to be clear on what his role is. He's with your.
He's the person that I represent.
Okay, you represent him. Okay, and then the average unit size for this development is going to be, what, 500 to 800 square feet?
Our typical project, the average unit size is around high 600s, low 700s. We haven't totally unit planned it out yet, but generally speaking, our projects tend to be very heavily skewed towards 1 bedrooms and less 2 and 3 bedrooms.
So, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert in this particular field. So would it be fair to interpret that as you are building what some may say micro units, high-end micro units, based on square footage? Because 500 to 600,
micro units are more in that 300 to 400 square foot, basically glorified hotel rooms. We're not doing that. We're doing something that's, a little bit big, a little bit kind of imagine a very smaller 1-bedroom units.
Okay.
But the way that we lay out our units, we try to be as efficient as possible with our unit plans. So that allows us to be a little bit smaller.
So 1 unit, you will have some 2 units, any 3 units?
At this point, we haven't site planned it out. Typically, if we have 3 bedrooms, it's typically not a huge percentage of our project.
Copy that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. We'll go to the district commissioner for a potential motion.
So I am concerned about the school capacity issue. I know that my understanding is that formula that OCPS uses was put into place way before what we see now as our housing crisis. So, and I mean, I fully, we could have a conversation about it, but what I wanted to do was see, because this didn't require a community meeting, I do see that there's a need for a community meeting, and I wanted to find out if we could do continue the case and do a community meeting, so that if there's any other questions, we'll be able to address those and maybe get a better understanding. I think as a good neighbor, right, we can start there, and then hopefully we can resolve any of the other questions that are lingering.
We're happy to have a community meeting, Commissioner. I think we would just want to understand with some certainty how quickly we could get back before this board, because we're under contract to purchase the property. So if it's a month delay, I think we're okay.
I mean, with all due respect.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What's the date, potential date?
Yeah, I was going to say, let us figure out the.
Mayor, we have a board meeting.
January 7th. In January, we have January 7th and January 28th.
Did you hear what he said? January 7th and January 28th.
January 7th works for us.
All right. Commissioner, does that work for you? Is that
I mean,
time to do a community meeting? You got holidays
coming.
coming.
It's not going to be enough time to do a community meeting.
Okay.
So we would need January 28th.
All right. Does that work for you all?
We will make it work.
All right. January 28th is
Okay.
what you will be looking at in terms of the continuation.
I'd like to make a motion to continue to January 28th at 2 p.m.
Uribe.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Uribe to continue this to the afternoon of January the 28th of 2025. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. All right. That was the final agenda item for today. However, there's a non-agenda item that we need to have a conversation about. Since our last board meeting, there has continued to be some conversation within the community about some of the expenditures associated with the current supervisor election. And as a result of that, there are some things that we need to inform the board about. First, going back to last Wednesday, November the 27th, I was contacted by Comptroller Diamond, who indicated to me at that time that he received contact from, I'm going to say, a person who contacted his office confidentially, who provided substantial, convincing, credible information about some potential inappropriate spending in the supervisor of elections office. At that time, after consulting with Mr. Diamond and County Attorney, Mr. Diamond decided at that time that he would, as the duly elected Orange County Controller and Auditor with audit authority for the constitutional offices, that he would make a visit to the Supervisor of Elections office and ask the supervisor to produce bank statements, records by which he could verify one way or the other the financial expenditures related to a point in time in the prior fiscal year that ended September the 30th, 2024, and the current fiscal year that began on October the 1st. And Mr. Diamond had some of his staff go to the supervisor's office, make contact with the supervisor's office, trying to, at that time, recover the public records in question. And prior to the meeting today, I had a conversation with Comptroller Diamond, and he told me that as of that time, the Supervisor of Elections office had failed to produce the records. And these records were consistent with some of what we have heard. Again, I don't know the specifics or the particulars associated with the person who spoke with the comptroller confidentially. I will ask the comptroller to speak to that particular issue. But one thing is of concern is a payment schedule that we have through our relationships with all of the constitutional officers of how we would provide the budgeted funds for them to operate their respective offices. I believe the county administrator has a copy of a schedule, a document that the Board of County Commissioners has previously approved that he's disseminating at this time. And within this particular document, there was a schedule to provide the draws. And this document is dated August the 19th of 2024. The board subsequently approved this draw schedule. If you flip it over on the back, you will see where the total budget for the FY 2024-2025 period of time that we're currently in for the supervisor's office is about $19.1 million, and a draw was made, payment made on October the 1st. Another was due in November. I'll let the comptroller speak to his concern about the draws and some of the comments that he made, his staff made to the Supervisor of Elections office this past Wednesday. Anyway, let me go to the supervisor, to the comptroller, let him tell you why he was doing the records demand that he was making. And so that way I don't put words in his mouth. I'll let you speak to that directly, Mr. Diamond.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, just to close the circle on the question of draws, the next draw that we would make would be sometime in December for $957,000 or so. And we have already given the election supervisor almost $9.6 million. And the supervisor's total budget for the year is in the neighborhood of $19 million. So he's already gotten about half of his budget for the fiscal year. So if you can put that aside for a second, I'd like to share the concerns I shared with the mayor on Wednesday. Number one, obviously, all of you are aware there was a very, very vigorous discussion about spending in the Supervisor of Elections office at our last meeting on November 19th. After that time, I talked with a number of you privately. I talked with the new Supervisor of Elections, the Supervisor of Elections-elect, privately several times. And as the mayor said, a confidential informant came forward to us, and we were able to talk to them last Tuesday. And that informant gave us a number of serious allegations. I'm only going to repeat one because I think it's fairly easy to prove or disprove, and that was that the supervisor wrote a check or wired money to a Central Florida nonprofit on October 2nd or 3rd for about $1.1 million. That was enough to raise some serious concerns in our office along with the other allegations. So as a result, the first thing we did was I called the mayor just to let him know about the issue with the draw coming up this month. And then the next day, I called the supervisor directly. I got no answer. I got no phone call back. And at that point, I directed my audit team to drive down to his office and ask for the records which we would like. What records are they? Basically a couple of bank statements from October 1st forward. And for any of us that have banks that have electronic banking, you can print out these statements fairly easily in a matter of minutes. They went to the supervisor's office last Wednesday, and they basically got the runaround, in a word. They didn't get the documents. At the end of the day, Wendy Kittleson, who is the assistant comptroller in charge of audit, did receive a letter or an email from the supervisor. So I would like to distribute that to you so that you can have it. You can see exactly what documents we asked for and see the response, in fact, the only response that we've received from the supervisor. So as I mentioned, no documents, 0 documents as of yet, which concerns me because you also heard the new supervisor of elections who made a public records request for public records who has yet to get any sort of response from the supervisor. And I don't know. I don't see the supervisor here. I don't know if anybody from his staff is here, but I would like to send a message, and if anybody is with that office, I would ask you to please take this message back to the supervisor, and that is, Mr. Supervisor, open the books. The people have a right to know how you're spending their money. So, at this point, I'm happy to take any questions. My staff is here, and welcome your questions.
The only thing that I would add, as the current supervisor has gone on the offensive, if you will, to the media, made various statements about the legality of what he's been doing, the efficacy of what he's been doing. I did receive a phone call from the immediate past supervisor of elections, Bill Cowles, who was very concerned that, given what he had been hearing, that it was inconsistent with requests, statements that he had made to us, being the Board of County Commission, as we were going through the budgetary process for establishing the current budget for fiscal year 24-25, and even correction for fiscal year 23-24, when the prior supervisor came to us and made a request for his budget that would encompass the election cycle that was just this past November and primary period of time. He felt that the expenditures that were being discussed publicly with various funds given to nonprofits was inconsistent with what he had come to the Board of County Commissioners to request in the way of funding. Mr. Cowles indicated to me that he would be at some point in the near future issuing a statement about his concern. While all of this was going on, you well know now that there were several individuals whose employment was terminated by the current supervisor, and some of those individuals believed that their termination was inappropriate, and that they were being made the scapegoat for what has transpired over the last few months. So this is why we're here. We do need to, as a board, have a conversation about what the comptroller is requesting, and part of that is that we not, until he has access to review the files, the records, to determine whether or not anything inconsistent with the county charter, law, or policy, he can't give us a recommendation. And so to protect the people's money, we would have to modify the draw schedule, and that is something that he's requesting that we do today. In order to modify that draw schedule, county attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, it will require a vote, direction, and it will take a minimum of 5 people of the 7 of us. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. And so that's why, because of the urgency associated with this is a non-agenda item. This is developing almost daily. And so this is the situation that we are confronted with at this time. And if you understood what the comptroller just said, that's another $1-point-something million that apparently can be added to the probably nearly $5 million of funding that we funded for specific purposes that is now being used for other than what we intended those purposes to be used for. And so it continues to evolve over time. So that's where we are. Questions, there are questions or comments. We'll start with Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Scott, and then Commissioner Gomez-Cadero. Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for continuing to show the leadership I think we need for the sake of transparency at this time. Thank you, Comptroller, for pursuing what I would say is really the basics, right? We just need to see the statements. And I guess my question is, seeing his response in email and hearing that he said he's compiling the information, but you said that these are things that are readily available that don't necessarily require some kind of a digital deep dive. What would be the normal turnaround if you requested this of somebody?
If it's someone who wants to provide it, I think they could do it in less than an hour.
Okay. And then, so that, I mean, that's, yeah, then it continues to be like layers of alarm. And I would say I support whatever we need to do to protect the taxpayers' interests here and to continue to protect the integrity of the Office of the Supervisor of Elections. I think my other question is about the October 2nd transfer or wire. Was that one that we had not previously known about? Was this addition to? I know you were saying that, but I'm like, there's so much in play that I'm trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, Commissioner, sure. And just to be clear, you all, and nobody has denied that 2.1 million went to Valencia, 1.9 went to Career Source, although that has been returned to us. This 1.1 is in addition to Career Source and Valencia.
Okay. Thank you.
Until the comptroller pointed that out to me, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, and I support.
So I don't know where it ends, but until the comptroller is allowed to at least review what is well within his authority as auditor for the county, it doesn't give me comfort at this point. And I guess sometimes I can't step away from my background. I've been involved in criminal investigations. I was involved in that for 38 years. And I see consistent kind of behavior with other politicians who've been investigated and charged over time, and I'm not necessarily saying that in this instance, but the alarms are there, is what I'm saying to the public. And for me, this isn't about the merits of what he's using the funds for. I think, as Commissioner Moore had previously stated, if he had asked us to do that, and we were part of a decision-making process to say, okay, those issues are issues for our community. Supervisor Cowles, when he came to ask for funding, we prioritize how we allocate the limited dollars that we have. We do not have unlimited dollars as a county. We have limited dollars, and we have to have priorities. We make decisions of how we would spend those dollars for different things within our community. Essentially what the supervisor has done, and his arrogance or wisdom, if you will, he said, I'm smarter than all of those people on the Board of County Commission. I'm doing something that has never been done before, prospectively, to go forward beyond a period of time that he will even be in office, because he chose not to even run for election to the office that he was appointed to. And essentially, tying the hands of the Board of County Commission to make decisions and to exercise our fiduciary responsibility to holding accountable the constitutional officers and ensuring the transparency in their offices. So we have to kind of get to the bottom of that, and the only way we can get to the bottom of that, so we have any comfort, is to utilize the authority that is invested in our comptroller to review these matters, and that's what he's been doing in this case. So
real quick follow-up question then. What would rise to the level of malfeasance to the point of needing a criminal investigation?
That would be a personal benefit of some way, or to personal benefit of others in some way, without the litmus test of this is truly to benefit the people, all the people of Orange County, and not individuals or individuals within a particular organization. And so we don't know that. I'm not trying to disparage him in any way, but I am trying to get to the bottom line. I want to understand what is happening with the people's money. And I think that's well within our obligation here, is to understand that, what is happening. Commissioner Scott.
A lot going on. How you doing, Mary? I want to just, I guess, do a rewind to make sure I understand kind of where we are. So as a board, our agenda items that are advertised, we vote for. 4 of us pushes something forward, and if it's non-agenda, 5 of us vote for it, and it moves forward. So and Jeff, please correct me if I'm wrong. And Mayor, you asked, you made reference to potentially modifying or doing something with respect to the supervisor of elections budget based on the comptroller. But if I'm recalling correctly, you just said you were here to answer questions. So I guess my first question would be to you, is there a specific ask you have of us as a board, and what is that? Because that was not made before.
My ask would be to defer any payments to the supervisor of elections until I bring this back to you and you authorize me to make payments again.
Thank you for the clarity. And I don't know if this is a Byron.
And before you leave that point, though, Supervisor, I think some would ask, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean their employees are still working the supervisor's office that must go forward? Those employees deserve to get paid. Given the draws that they have received already, are you confident that he should have the dollars if he's doing what he is supposed to be doing with the dollars to pay his staff?
What I'm confident of is that we've already given him about half his budget for the entire year. And yes, you would think that the funds would be there to meet any obligations. That said, since he has denied access, I can't tell you for sure.
And we're essentially 3 months into the fiscal year.
Well, less than that, really, just 2 weeks. A little less, but 2 months and a week, yeah.
Okay, and that means that what you're saying is you have provided him almost half of the budget for all 4 quarters of the year. All right. So I just wanted that to be clear to you all, that if you had any concern about what the supervisor is saying, he's simply saying, don't make any other payments or draws until he understands what's going on in the office financially.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, Mayor, let me help you out there a little bit in terms of what is statutorily required in terms of disbursements to supervisor of elections. In October, that disbursement statutorily had to be 25% of the budget. In November, that disbursement then would drop down to 6.82% of the budget. So he's received 21%, or I should say 19% more on average, about 19% more than what he should have received statutorily. So in my book, in my calculation, I'm not an auditor, that ought to be enough to carry his payroll for the month of November as well as December.
In our previous conversation, Commissioner Bonilla and other commissioners had shared, was there any attempts to have a conversation? And I believe County Attorney, County Administrator said that you guys just conveyed the direction from the mayor. Since that time, has there been any additional outreach made by county staff?
If I might, Commissioner, first of all, I called him last Wednesday. I didn't get a call back. He didn't pick up the phone when I called. Secondly, Wendy Kittle sent another auditor from our office, drove down to the supervisor of elections office and sat there. They saw the supervisor in his office, even though they were told the supervisor had meetings and couldn't meet with them. They didn't see anybody in the office with them. But they were there. The supervisor responded, sent an email, which I distributed to you all, saying that, making a comment about them coming there on the day before Thanksgiving, which I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure where that was coming from exactly. I mean, we work, we do the job, we get the job done. And still, even if there was an issue with coming in the day before Thanksgiving, we're almost a week past last Wednesday. And we're not talking about a major document production. We're talking about basically printing out a couple of bank statements along with whatever checks or ACH transfers came with that. It's not like I told Commissioner Wilson, I think you could do it in an hour or less. So I don't really understand this unwillingness to provide public records. You know, the new supervisor of elections said she's asked for those records. She's made public records requests. The law in Florida is if you're a public official, you comply with public records requests. And if you don't, you're liable for attorney's fees, you're liable for penalties, and it's not optional. We're talking about the most fundamental of public records. We're talking about bank statements. What this supervisor of election is doing with our money and our constituents' money. We have a right to know.
Understood, Comptroller, and I'm clear on the timeline with respect to your office. What I'm asking is on behalf of Board of County Commission, has anybody from the county? No, it's not. I mean, so for purposes of clarity, he is the constitutionally elected comptroller, and I understand what his staff did.
Yes.
I'm talking about county administration, not county comptroller. And so what I'm asking, because that was the conversation, was there any outreach made by either the county administrator or the county attorney subsequent from our last meeting? Remember, you guys made outreach since our last meeting. Have you made any additional attempts, or has it just been through
No,
comptroller?
have not. There's nothing more. I think the board has been very clear, so
Okay.
there's nothing more I could add to that conversation.
No, I'm just trying to understand the timeline.
Yeah,
And so
no,
this,
I have not had any conversation or attempted to have any.
so Career Source returned the funds.
Mm-hmm.
Who did they return the funds to? To
Me.
the comptroller? Okay, and so those funds were returned to you. They are now no longer in the possession of Career Source or Supervisor of Elections.
Correct.
Copy that. And then this $1.1 million that was a wire transfer, do we know, you just said a nonprofit, do you know the entity?
I do. I'm not going to say because I don't have a document that says that. Nonetheless, we feel like the confidential informant is credible. So I had to balance those two things, and I want to be transparent. That's my goal here, and I wanted to share a concern because that was really the tenor of the last meeting. Was there was a lot of concern about, well, what's happening over there now? How can the county be protected against any potential issues or malfeasance in that office right now? And that's why when all these things came together, I thought it was important to disclose it to the mayor, and I asked him, and he quickly agreed to disclose it to the board.
All right, I don't have any questions. I do have a final thought, though. So with respect to the disbursements and the amount that we've already provided to the Supervisor of Elections, as I shared in our previous conversation, you know, the time to do an audit and what that takes from your team and your office in respect to what they have. I guess my concern is what is clear to, I think, anyone, regardless of their opinions, is we don't have a clear understanding of what was spent or what wasn't spent. And so if we decide to withhold maybe, say, all of the funds based on what we perceive, then there's a potential to harm those employees that are there. I don't know if, from a county administration standpoint, our budget office, if we have maybe some historical information to know what the payroll looks like month to month. But I guess my biggest concern is, let's say we take some type of action today where we disperse no funds at all, and there's a possibility that maybe all the funds have been not proper. I don't want to harm any employees in any decision that we make. That is my overwhelming concern, especially around this time.
Sure. And the best way to avoid that, and I'll say it again, open the books, Mr. Gilzine. We have a right to know how you're spending our money.
And I do understand that, and Jeff, this may be a question for you. This Seminole County Board of County Commission and their supervisor elections, I understand they created something where their disbursements are limited to payroll. Is that a potential option depending on how we move forward today, or I'm not sure?
I'm not familiar with what they did.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Gomez-Cordero.
Thank you, Mayor. Mostly of my questions have been answered, but I still have questions. Comptroller, is that legal to wire transfer amount of money like this?
It depends what it's for. After we get a little more information, I think we will ask for a copy of whatever agreement might have been the basis for that transfer. So I think it's too soon to tell.
Okay. And then, just to clarify again, the funds from Valencia and Career Source were returned?
No.
No.
The funds from Career Source were, so that is correct.
Okay.
The funds from Valencia
No.
have not been, no.
Okay. No. And, let's see. Okay, and then the attorney answered, like, for example, the money that he gave, not for example, my question is, the money that he gave to Valencia and Career Source and this 1.1 additional wire transfer, was that from the $9 million that he received already from October and November? Or that was some grants or funds or something from?
You know what, I'm going to ask my staff if they can answer that question.
It's two different budget years. So the 1.1 is out of this 9.7 million, whereas the Career Source, the Valencia, is last fiscal year's money.
But still, it was from the budget money. It wasn't like a special funds grant given to the supervisor. Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay, so it was still from the budget, this budget. Okay. Okay, so then, Council, you said that with the money that he has, the staff will not be affected if he
That's
still have to
that's
pay?
just my opinion. He's received almost 50% of his budget. If statutorily all he was entitled to receive was
Yes.
25% for the first month of October and then 6.82% thereafter, in my opinion, he probably has enough money to make payroll.
So nobody has access to his, to that account?
No. Well, other than people that he has granted access to the account, which I think are employees that are working for him currently. You heard earlier today that a number of employees just got fired in the past few days, which, as an aside, when a long-term finance person is fired, that also raises some concerns when that's someone who is known to be a good employee. But I can't draw more of an inference than that, but we don't know who has access to the money, and we don't know who's writing checks.
So, Comptroller, why in October and November, the amount given from December, January, February is different? Why is so high and then it comes low to, 957? Why?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. One is they typically have elections in the fall, and so you got more expenses.
Okay.
That's the statutory amount, and part of the theory, I think, is that if they have any surplus, they're supposed to return it to the county at the end of the year, so they're starting out with basically zero. So they're going to need a bit more early on so that they can handle the early bills and get through the first month or so.
Okay. Okay, and well, I think is, we are learning more and more of all these things, and I just want to say, since we were part of the canvassing board and I was there like the whole year, back and forth, there are some good staff there. I mean, very good staff like, Chris, Cesar, Luis, Lucy, Macho, right? They are amazing. Angela, that, are so, dedicated to this election as well. And they are amazing. They're Hispanic and African American and so, but I have to say that, the elections, right, Commissioner Moore, the audit, inside audit was good, outside audit was good. So I have to say, thank you to all that staff too, and I'm, we are sorry that these things are happening, but I think it's gonna come out and things gonna get clear soon. That's my last part.
Commissioner Uribe.
Thank you, Mayor. Comptroller Diamond, thank you for you and your staff for all your due diligence and trying to really understand where we are. I think ultimately for us, the biggest, well, and I'll just speak for myself, the biggest concern is, one, we don't know what he has spent. So in theory, you're saying he's been paid 19% over than what he has requested to date for his budget. But we don't know if those funds exist right now in the account or if they've been spent because you don't have access to financials. What kind of liability does this put the county in, us, the governing board, over the funding of this? Because we don't fund them, but we, allocate their funds and so forth. If there aren't enough funds to pay the bills, to pay payroll, those kind of things, because we really have no clue. We are missing information. So to me, it isn't exactly something incorrect on spending. To me, it's more of where are you in your budget and what has been done and what has been spent. Because ultimately, while we're trying to make assurances here that these folks are going to get paid through December and ultimately through the first week when the new supervisor of elections enters, we have no clue if they're going to be able to make payroll. Do we see that data? Like, is payroll run through the county where we can actually see if they have, not being able to have access to the accounts, do we have the ability to see if payroll's being met? That's my question, because I think we've all kind of asked the same questions because nobody wants anybody to go unpaid. But the reality is we don't know out of that funding that's been distributed, and granted, it is 19% more than what could have been allocated at this time. Do we have any other way of knowing if payroll will be met in the remaining 2 payroll cycles or that will take place under this leadership?
Right, you're right, and I think there are 2 payroll cycles. You are right, my office does handle payroll for the general county, about 8,000 employees or so. Unfortunately, we do not handle that for the supervisor of elections office. They do that themselves. Okay. So there really is no way to know to know the answer to your question. I wish I did, and I wish the supervisor would open the book so we all could see.
Right. And also, my follow-up question is, knowing that we have allocated an additional 19% of the annual budget for that office has already gone, is there a concern and is there a backup when the new supervisor comes in? Does she have what she needs to run a City of Belle Isle election coming up and any other elections that are coming up in the non-traditional election year? And I guess that would be, and if that happens, do we have anything to support her while we go through this transaction once January 10th, 7th takes place? I think that whole idea is that we're looking at 34 days of uncertainty until she steps in, because at that point, she has full control of that office. And so I just worry about our liability as a county. And secondly, if there for some reason is overuse of funds, how does she bounce back from this while we're trying to acquire? We have no idea. If the funds could be there. As far as we're concerned, the money could be there, and that's what it is. It's all about a communication. And do you have a time frame? Like, are we giving 5 working business days to get this, settled and answered? I mean, is there any kind of criteria? I don't think this has ever happened in the county, and it just kind of leaves us all unknown of what is actually happening. And then lastly, you are, as the mayor always notates, you're the only independently elected comptroller. What powers do you have in your role? I mean, you sent someone down there, but clearly you don't have the right to call the bank and say, give us access to his account. I mean, and I don't understand why, because if you're an independent comptroller that oversees the county, what legally, and I don't know if that's for Jeff, what legally does our comptroller have to review everything?
Those are
he has his own counsel.
Those are a lot of good questions. And in a second, I'm going to defer to Mr. Newton, but what I can tell you is the county charter provides that in addition to my authority under the Florida Constitution as the county auditor, we have a right to audit all charter officers. Also, the Florida Public Records Law, Section 119, is very clear about public officials having to produce records. So I think litigation is an option. I hate to pursue that because I think it would be wrong for the taxpayers to have to pay to force the supervisor to do something that I think he knows he should do, which is why I suggested he open the books. But on the other hand, that's a decision to be made another day.
Got a note, Comptroller, it may be helpful if you also speak to that other protection that's in the state statute that says, in this circumstance, that would essentially say you shouldn't spend more than 1/12 of the budget when you have someone else coming into office. Perhaps if you share that with the board, they may find that helpful in terms of what the statute says. Now, again, you don't know where he is until you get in, but there was supposed to be, or there is some protection in the statute that attempts to address a transition of this nature. So I just know if you wanted to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, I would, but I think probably Mr. Newton might be a better person to describe it in detail and the implications of it.
What that provision of 129.06 subsection 5 indicates is that essentially from October 1st forward, supervised elections can't spend in a single month more than 1/12 of any itemized approved appropriation. And so one of the issues I think that the comptroller is going to look at, given the fact that there have been expenditures in October as well as November, is whether or not that statutory prohibition has occurred.
All right, Commissioner Moore.
Just, you've asked most of my questions. So to release the funding, can you explain one more time what you're asking for? Is it just the documents or is it a full audit? Maybe you could just explain that to me, please.
What I'd propose is that I return at the next board meeting later in December. I will give you an update. I don't know what it is that we're going to find. I don't know if everything will be fine. I don't know if there will be blatant errors, or I don't know if it's something we'll need to we'll need further time to look at it. But what I do know is I will be able to report to you about whether I got any access to the records. I'll be glad to tell you that. I'll be glad to tell you what I got, and I'll be glad to tell you what we found.
So you're basically asking for that amount to be frozen to be determined at the next commission hearing?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And just by the way, while we were here, Bill Cowles had a statement that was released, and I'll read his statement. It says, quote, "One of the hallmarks of my 35-year career as the duly elected Orange County Supervisor of Elections was to be a good steward of taxpayers' monies. From fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2023, we returned over $6.7 million to the county taxpayers. Excess funds belong to the Board of County Commissioners so they can put it to the best use for the people." End of quote. Bill Cowles, who just happens to be the longest serving supervisor of elections in Orange County, who was first elected in 1996 and re-elected in every election since until retiring in January of 2024. From the time he joined the office in 1989 as Chief Deputy, Cowles administered nearly 100 elections during his 35-year tenure in the elections office. And this is where we are today. So I wanted to at least have the conversations. There's more details that we will not get into here publicly today, but what you have heard is sufficient to, I believe, bring you up to speed with where we are at this time. And what I would like to do is to make a motion to concur with the request being made by the Orange County Controller until the records are produced, to give him comfort that there have not been inappropriate spendings, and that the funds provided to the Supervisor of Elections office are there, that we authorize him to not make further draws until it comes back to the Board of County Commission, until he reports back to the Board of County Commission.
Second, Wilson.
For consideration. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The record reflects that it is unanimous of the 7 members of the Board of County Commission. With that action, I remain optimistic that we will get to a better place with the Supervisor of Elections to the good of the people of Orange County, and we won't have to keep having these uncomfortable conversations in the manner in which we have. This is extraordinary. I don't think in any of our careers we've seen this. In my 44 years of public service, I have not seen this to this extent. And so because of that, it's uncomfortable. So we want to get back to doing the will of the people. Those funds that were not appropriated by this body to the Supervisor of Elections for other things, those funds should be returned. Any of those organizations who have received these significant funding amounts should, if I were them, not spend the funds. They should return those funds to Orange County, and then it will be for the deliberation and the determination of this body what those funds will be used for. If this body decides that they want to use those funds for scholarships or other things, this body should be the ones making that decision. So with that, there is no other business before the board today, and so we stand adjourned.